And it's just amazing how few people even know about that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like if you want to be involved,
Mm-hmm.
but then if you don't, excuse me. We have quorum. Okay, good. Sorry about that. That's
Our
okay.
audio person, I had to turn everything on and.
I kind of figured that's what was going
Good
on.
job.
And then here comes Marcy.
Oh, sweet. Oh my God, we have overquorum.
Thank God. Phew.
So
If you have to leave, Joel,
What's that?
if you have to leave, we won't throw
Right now,
my daggers at you.
I have no plans. Like I said, I was just a little nervous that as I walked in, I got a call from work, so it can happen in a hurry. We'll see. I don't think anybody will be there at this time of night, so hopefully not.
All right.
Hey, how are you? Great, how you doing?
All right, let's get started since we're a couple
I ran here
minutes
to make sure
behind.
we had a quorum. One extra.
We have one extra, so.
Oh, good, I can leave.
You can. No, don't go.
We have quorum buffer. Quorum buffer.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Ryan's not here, so I am chairing tonight. So we're just going to start with roll call. And I'll start. So I'm Kate Senecal, and I'm vice chair.
Tracy Collar, member. Marcy Strass, member.
Joel White, member.
Peter Ruprecht, member. Sean Samuelson, member.
Cindy Everly, town trustee.
Allison James, town staff.
Before we move forward, does anybody care to take notes for us or minutes for us?
I can take them on paper. I didn't bring a computer.
Okay, does anybody else want to? I have a computer, and it's fine if you don't, Peter.
I can do it if you think they're all right.
I think they're fine. I think they're great. They're brief. It just helps it because he sends it to me immediately, and then I don't have to scribe it through.
Yep.
Sold. Welcome
Awesome.
back, Allison. Thank you.
And we have an addition to our agenda, the Toll Brothers discussion. So for the sake that Joel might, although we do have quorum, I think, does anybody care if we add that to the last thing, right before updates and look-aheads?
Well, do we
Or do you
have
wanna do
to?
it
I mean,
first?
when's it going before the board? I mean, do we have to put it in? Because I think a lot of us haven't had a chance to really look at
I
it.
think it's been requested by somebody above
Someone's
us.
requested.
Yep, that we discuss it, as does ProStack, so.
Okay.
And I have it to pull up, and we can talk through it if we need to.
Do you want to do that first or after all the other stuff that's already on the agenda?
I'd rather do it first, but that's just my preference.
That's fine.
I'd rather do it first too. I mean, if it's important enough to get it added to the agenda, I think we should at least address it while we can.
Okay. All right. So I have to make a motion, right, to change the agenda? Or I don't have to make it?
Amend.
To amend the agenda. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll second it.
Motion made to address and amend agenda to add Toll Brothers, review of Toll Brothers,
Yep.
area of Superior Town Center.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor? Okay. All right. So, thanks, Tracy.
If you want to go to where you can see the blue, I kind of allow us to really see trails.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. Oops, I'm all the way to the end. Am I not seeing the blue?
Sorry, that was me dropping my nose. Don't get
Oh, area. Color. Why am I not seeing
it feels blurry to me.
It's kind of blurry.
That's why I put my glasses on.
You two haven't seen it?
I have not.
Okay. Is that with the envelope too?
What?
This is a card.
Am I not seeing layers
Oh, this is for
somewhere? There was
Patrick?
blue on it. Patrick downloaded this for me, and I just looked at it, it had a bunch of blue.
Shift all the way around, so I don't have to crane my neck.
This might be a good one to look at.
Has it already been opened?
Yeah, Kate's
I
the
just,
one.
the last one, and I'll get it too.
That's funny, I'm seeing this thing right here. Well, from what I understand, there's gonna be a trail, there's trails entering and going through. So all of these, are connections of,
Like sidewalks and.
trails, and some of the homes will be facing each other with this open spaces in the center.
Okay.
And so you can kind of see all these trails that are interior. And then,
Can we do a perspective as to where we're at?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Sure,
where
sure.
we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
so this is 36, and right in up to about here is our existing, and tract H is along here. And it's kind of a triangle shape. Let's see if another.
There's kind of that perspective picture someplace in there. I can't remember which document it was in.
So this, you can kind of see the roads that are, going into town center. And then this is US 36.
So where's the neighborhood towards?
The neighborhood is down below, so
Down
this
below.
is,
Okay.
so I think tract H probably ends right in here. And then this is,
Creek Ranch.
existing neighborhood ends in here, and then this is like the open area. This is a detention pond, that'll be open space area, and then they had, trails coming. Let's see, where is
So lanterns are on the bottom to the right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's where lanterns are, okay.
I'm looking for our, one of them had like, tract H on it, where you could see where it ended. There's so many sheets. So that kind of shows, every time I turn it there.
While you're working on that, can I just ask a general question about what the scope of our ability to comment on this is at this point? What are you all looking for?
Well, what's been directed by the board is when new projects come online or begin to come online, that certain committees are tasked with making recommendations about the FDPs. And so the reason you were sent the information to take a look at was to, formulate any comments or ask any questions, and then I can either get back to you if I don't have the information, or we can we would put the recommendations into our notes so that the board had the recommendations.
When's this going to the planning commission? Or has it already been? And when's it going to the board?
I don't know. I'm not supposed to know anything about this.
Oh,
I'm
you don't-
actually sitting here working.
Okay.
Otherwise, I
Okay.
have to leave the room because I'm supposed to recuse myself from this.
So we don't have a date yet for September probably sometime?
So I think that it may go before the board on the 26th. I'm not sure. I was just instructed
26th of
to.
August?
September. It had to be September.
Okay, because I was gonna say, it's definitely not.
Because it hasn't
Or
gone to the planning
September.
commission yet, I
Well,
don't think.
August 26th is
No, sorry.
next Monday.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was just
Yeah,
given the instruction to provide it to OSAC and ProStac for any recommendations or comments you had.
So we have one more meeting before it goes.
I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe one more meeting.
I wasn't really given that information.
Sure.
I have one comment based on looking at this before the meeting. And the buffer zone here, which is quote unquote the open space, is 225 feet. We're going to propose for the Zacharias property tonight, 250 feet. So to be consistent, I move that we ask for an extra 25 feet be added to this buffer zone. I think we should be consistent. If we're gonna ask 250, we should ask it across the board.
Can we point out what area we're talking about? I have not had a chance to review this, so this is the first time I'm seeing.
I too missed Allison's email.
Well, it's the buffer zone between the development and the neighborhood. There's a
The
225,
wildlife
the wildlife corridor is 225 feet. You can take my word for it because I've researched it.
Next one.
We're about to talk about Zacharias, and we're gonna propose 250 feet based on our conversations at the last two meetings, I think.
Is
So-
it this, Marcy?
Yeah, it's the buffer zone. Yeah, it's the
Oh, yeah.
wildlife corridor, the
That's
wildlife
cool.
corridor.
Leave that.
So I think we should be consistent. If we're gonna ask 250 there, we should ask 250 there. So that's one point I wanted to make. I don't think I've had much of a chance to.
Planning Commission on the 20th.
On the 20th of August?
What's on the 20th?
This
It
goes-
will
this goes
before
to-
the
Goes to the board. When's our
No, to
meeting?
the planning commission, she said.
Oh, the planning commission? Of September? August? So it goes to the commission, okay.
Next week.
So it doesn't go to the board till September though?
Yeah, it definitely won't, it's not on our agenda right now.
Yeah, I don't think I've
Unless
seen,
it came on the agenda between Friday and now.
I haven't seen anything. Okay.
Marcy, can you, so you said the 225, the buffer 225, is that from tract H? Can you clarify where?
It's the quote-unquote wildlife corridor
Mhm.
between the development and the neighborhood, which is town space, wildlife corridor, buffer zone. It has been called all those things.
Okay,
And,
But I guess.
so it's not clear, it
Yeah,
sounds like.
I don't have clarity.
Is it from tract H, is it from the
Exactly.
neighborhood line?
Because if it includes tract H,
Then that's
that's.
actually a
it's
decent
not
amount of.
even Much more, like, I mean, if tract
Right.
H is a subset of the 250, then it may only be 100 more than what
Right.
is out there now, right?
Right,
So where is H on here? We have, it says tract H, but
Yeah.
where? View shed
It's
limit?
that whole,
This, right?
it's below that.
So,
Oh, it's not this.
I mean, it's not this.
No,
It's gotta be,
Yeah.
Here,
it's the, I think it's the
no person, oh.
Oh.
that took care of that.
Okay, it's back.
That took care of that.
I know.
So, I mean, I don't know. So I believe that tract H continues on well below this picture.
Not the finished tract H, does it? I mean, it cuts off, you know where that drainage line is, isn't it? I think it's somewhere in there. I'm looking for
So that,
the sheet that'll show our
Right,
tract H.
because the trail that runs east-west is somewhere in here, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So is Rock Creek Ranch, is tract H does not extend it to Rock Creek, is that correct? Presumably not, I guess. You know, this is a pretty big space here. It's quite a big space, so this could just be, is there a scale on here anywhere?
What are we trying to figure out?
Basically where the back of the
What's at the
existing
top of
neighborhood
the
is.
Where the back of the existing neighborhood is. Oh, whether it's the solid line or the
The
dotted
scale's the
line?
bottom right, Peter. Go over further and it's right where Joel's standing.
There we go, wow. Can you read that?
Zoom in,
It
zoom
looks like
in, zoom in,
that's-
click on the plus.
Yeah.
More, a lot more.
Wow,
You can't, will the scroll down?
there we go.
inch equals 100 feet, I would assume.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
One inch equals 100.
About the width of your hand up there is 100 feet, right?
Is zero, this is what they're saying is 100 feet.
Yeah, so if you're saying that 225 feet is this, that looks about right compared to that scale, right? So that this must be the back of,
right,
this must be tract H, basically.
right, I think so. I know that it's 225 feet, so whatever 225 feet is.
But that,
Well, that's not 225 feet based on that measurement.
yeah,
Not quite.
it doesn't look like it, does it?
Well, we don't know what the lines mean.
So,
Where's the, wasn't there at the last board meeting that they decided that there should be an access through lanterns to town center? Would that be over here somewhere? Is lanterns over here?
yeah.
Is there a C4 on that? Like, we can
Yeah,
go
up
up
to the
there.
left.
Up there?
So hold on before you scroll, I want to ask one thing here, because it says, 25 feet setbacks, and it's saying this is 25 feet right here.
Right, but it's
Right.
not, right.
But that's property line there, so,
It's not part of the wildlife corridor. I think the wildlife corridor is below that.
but I guess I'm confused. If the property line is here, we'd expect the setback to be in their property, right? It's like,
Maybe that's their backyard.
Yeah, so this would be the backyard.
Yeah.
This would be kind of a no-build zone here, and then you've got about 200 feet-ish in here. So that probably, if we're going all the way up to this dotted line from this line down here, that's probably 225 feet.
yeah, I think you're right.
Well, so see where it says tract H to the left?
Yeah,
And then it says, these lots and others respect the 25-foot setback from tract H and include an outdoor side yard that is oriented to tract H.
So that's their backyard.
Side yard that is oriented to
Is
tract
their
H.
side yard?
Yeah, as I recall, it was the back of the building that was where they said that the buffer was, and that was the same way they measure it actually on the Zaharias proposal as well, as actually from the back face of the building.
yeah,
Um,
which,
Now-
that may be standard, that seems really kind of cheating, right? I mean, there's a big difference in the back of my house and the back of my fence. I mean, what if
Yeah.
your yard is a quarter acre, right?
Yeah.
Well, the
We're not gonna have pelicans in the back of your yard,
Right.
right?
What's confusing me here is the design guidelines say that the doors have to face the front road, right? So the doors, the front of the buildings, what are those things here? Are these buildings, sorry, these things here? This stuff
The
here?
numbers?
I think those
so.
are lot numbers.
Those are lot numbers.
So Allison, do you think tract H is the bold, black line there?
No, I
Is it?
think tract H is to the south, where it says tract H, like that whole
It says
swath.
right here, track H, right?
Yes, that whole swath, I think.
But why is
What's
there a
swath?
And then the 20-foot setback, I think, is between the bold line and the
dotted line,
road. Mm-hmm.
which is a road? So there's a full line and a dotted line and a road, and then there's lot lines. So the lot lines would be houses?
So there would be a house on here,
You
and the
couldn't
dotted
build-
line is you can't build
You
past it.
couldn't build in there, but the house could be here.
Right.
But then this is a landscaping zone that says 20 feet that goes to here.
Yeah.
And then 25 feet from the back of the structure to here, which is the property line. But again, if we're saying 225 feet,
Is the wildlife corridor.
that looks like 200 feet short to me. Maybe I'm just not seeing that. Do you guys understand what they're saying there? I mean,
Well, the 225 feet includes tract H.
yeah, but why? Tract H isn't theirs, right? I can include a huge buffer behind my house, but I don't own it.
Well, tract H is owned by the town.
Right, but that, is there an agreement with the builder that they get to count the tract H as their buffer? I mean, because to me,
Track H is the buffer, it's the wildlife corridor is track H,
Right.
which is.
Hey,
owned by
guys,
the town.
I'm gonna recuse myself. I'm technically not supposed to be listening to this. It sounds like you guys are kind of going down the alley a little bit. So I'll just be sitting out here in the hall.
Can you send us an expert on this?
But, I better go out while you're talking about it.
I mean, it just seems weird to me that they can claim 200 feet of the town's property as their buffer. Maybe that's completely correct.
Does it say that in text anywhere?
That's what I'm looking for right now. I'm
The,
searching just track H.
So I can see that this says, townhomes are planned generally in the north portion of the site, north of Promenade Drive, and the blocks that fall between the 55-foot height limitation of planning area group. Townhomes face streets on all sides of each block, and pedestrian paseos provide connection to the fronts of other units in the mid-blocks. And then it says cottages are, so there's two types, cottages and townhomes. Cottages are generally located on the south and east end of the site. These include cottages that face Promenade, Superior, Discovery, and some of the other streets. There are 6 cottage lots which front on the Central Park open space. I do think that one of the main priorities too for us was to look at connectivity. And I do know that there's also like a retainage wall for noise mitigation along 36 for connection to the bikeway. And that we worked really hard to get track H for open space area in this overall area. And I know that the assistant town manager is working on a potential park. So those are a couple other notes that I have.
They've planted some trees there, which is what's happened this
In
far.
track H?
In track H, yeah.
Yes, there was a landscape plan.
There's they planted some evergreen trees, but I don't think we need to figure out all the lines because track H, the buffer zone or the wildlife corridor is 225 feet. It doesn't take away from my point that we should recommend another 25 feet to be consistent while we're trying to figure out all these lines.
Sure, that's a great point. The reason we did 250 feet for Zacarias was
Right.
based on EPA guidelines between
Exactly.
critical wildlife habitat and a development. I don't know that we have a critical wildlife habitat in here that's designated as such, so that's a bit of a counter argument. But
Well, we have.
but there's
We
no
have,
reason not to say.
we have animals there. I mean, we have coyotes, we have birds, we have.
But we have
But I
those
think
everywhere.
that's a specific, like, title for
Right.
Yeah.
for Hodgkin Harris, is that it is critical wildlife. It's not just a random jargon term, it's an actual
Designation.
designation.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, Are we going forward trying to get 250 feet from now on, or is that an exception? I thought that was going to be our standard going forward, that we're going to try to get 250 feet going forward.
Well, I'm not arguing with you in any way. I'm just saying that that's what the
Yeah.
EPA, that's what the EPA guidelines
Yeah,
are for.
yeah. No, I know, we talked about that last time.
Yeah.
I mean, I see the point you're making though is Hodgkin Harris was designated as critical. We don't know, or at least I don't know, that this has been designated as critical. So if we say we should have 250 for both, Hodgkin Harris, I mean, they're apples and oranges, but you're saying we want the same thing, right?
Right, I'm saying that somebody could definitely make that counter argument.
Agreed, and I see your point there. I mean, and I do think that's a bit of a concern.
You could always distinguish different land, I mean.
Allison, do you know what the current percentage of open space, green space there is in this block 16 through 22 currently?
I can definitely try to figure that out. I do see the site has a large linear park open space that connects track H to the bicycle overpass of US 36 at the center of the linear park / open space and open play lawn and sculptural elements.
It doesn't seem like 30%.
Because we haven't had a lot of time to review through, we're reviewing this basically at the same time you are.
Sure.
So.
Can you move
These
this
are
up?
interior sidewalks, is that right? Like tighter lines, I mean,
There's nothing in there.
So I think this is a path, and the sidewalks are these parallel lines. So what were you referring to, Joe?
but like, this kind of looks like a path,
Yes, that would be a path.
and then this looks like outlet, like up to the 36 bikeway maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
So actually, the 36 bikeway, you can see the.
You can
over
see it
the-
right here. There's
No,
the
I don't
path.
think so. You have to go up.
So it
Keep going up.
actually,
Look east of Alley
Stop right there.
20.
No, the bridge, the bikeway's on the other side of the road, of the highway there. So that bridge right there where your pointer's at is,
Do you see an Alley 20
Yeah.
on there?
It looks like it's right by 21.
26.
It
The
says-
alleys are numbered here.
Is that 20?
I can't read it.
Here's
There's a
20.
portion of the park open space between Promenade Drive and Superior Drive east of Alley 20.
East of
This is
20.
alley 20 is down there,
So east would be over here.
yeah.
so that outlook.
So there's a portion of the park and open space there also.
That little dark spot?
Okay.
Well,
Or
this-
that spot?
So the trail going up, yeah, to Peter's point, there it is going to the bridge from the center of this,
So, and the document does say two, because that was one of the questions
yeah.
I had, was around, that there are two connecting
So
points
the other one,
to
you
the
would
US
come in and
36.
then head back west
Yeah.
to the bridge to go back across.
Yeah.
Boy, this thing has a lot of alleys.
Did you get a color-coded copy you sent, Allison, that showed green
It's so
space?
funny because Patrick downloaded it and put it into this folder for me, and when we looked at it, you could see blue for all the trails.
Mm,
And it was just covered with blue, and now it's on
That's
this,
so
maybe
weird.
it's this computer setting. So all of those, I'm gonna get up and point. All of these were in blue, so you could really see all these different, trails running through and having, really good connectivity because you could really see it. But now it's not blue, but it's still there, all of these
Yeah.
are, and I have the description. I kind of pulled it out of the narrative this afternoon where it says,
And it's supposed to be 30% open space?
I don't know.
Okay.
That sure doesn't seem like 30.
It doesn't look like 30%.
So in the past, that's always been
It's-
our primary recommendation, is meeting the minimum requirement of open
Right.
space for every development in the town.
And then it says all streets within the site include a 5-foot sidewalk with accessibility to all these different things like park spot. Pathways 4 foot in width in front of units along the street and paseos. And then to accommodate and encourage bikes, 7-foot bike lanes on Superior and Promenade Drive. And then it has a bunch of other stuff on calming features and bike lane conditions. But I know our real priority is open space.
Right.
Maybe that's the recommendation that you're looking for.
well, I mean, there's town guidelines on how much green space they have in there.
Correct.
And presumably, the planning.
It's somewhere between 30 and 35%, as I recall.
And like I said,
Staff will
the
add that
detention
out.
pond is gonna be included in that.
Yeah.
Our 25-foot setback.
Yeah, it's amazing what they consider open
The
space.
water
It's, yes.
space in the pond.
It's to the right. Can you move it to the right? That's the-
Typically, that's all
how-
included. And then all the green
Yeah.
park space where, I'm assuming
So
where
they're
the
adding-
houses have a great front lawn that they share, and then the park
Hmm.
spaces maybe.
So it may very well be 30,
So,
or
I'm not
where
sure.
it's supposed to be.
Allison, under FDP sheet part 1, I believe, has the blue paths. The second slide, so if you want to take that guide, find.
Oh, yeah.
La, la, la.
Still on it, so.
Part 1. FDP part 1. And then the second slide, I believe.
Ah, thank
The
you.
one you're
That's
talking about.
exactly it. Because then you could see, you can also see tract H,
Yeah.
where it ends.
Oh, score, yes.
I knew it was in
Nice
here.
job.
That's why I've been so quiet, trying to find what she's
I was wondering.
We should have known something was out.
I know. What is he up to over here? Okay, thank you so much. That's exactly the one. So you can see all the trails, you can see your tracked age.
I wish they'd
You
show
could
the
s-
green, like green in green space, you know, colored green.
Well, and
That
I
would-
mean, if you look at these trails, you
Yeah,
can see
right.
that it's
On the
on
green space.
park space.
Staff will figure that all out, though, I mean, in theory, right? I
Well,
mean,
but you guys got a lot on your plate, so in theory, yes, but that's also up to us, and we can't just expect.
Can you see the,
So this is kind of interesting that this trail spurs off here and then goes nowhere.
So
well,
there-
no, it's gonna come, it's gonna,
Yeah, that
But
goes along.
from where?
with-
Because like the 36 path's on the other side, right?
well, it looks like there's a trail here.
Right.
But it's not blue.
Well, maybe they didn't blue it all.
Maybe it's a road, maybe it's a trail that goes into,
Is
like,
that the
just a
current bike
connecting
path?
street.
Is it existing?
No.
There's no bike path there.
Yeah, what is that road there on the right side? Coming down, is that Coal Creek?
This- Yeah, future Coal Creek.
That's Coal Creek, okay, that makes sense.
And then this is that detention.
So that's the retention pond over there.
I don't know. So that was one main question I had, is Promenade still going where it's currently listed here, or is that being capped there, Allison? Is that,
I haven't heard anything about it.
because that would,
This is
potentially
really
that
new
would
to
be
me,
considered
too.
green space if that
I
doesn't
know.
go through too.
That's true.
When I sent it
Are
to you
talking
guys,
about this, Sean?
Yeah.
and
that
I'm working on
section,
Chili
so-
Fest right now, so I.
So if this doesn't blast through
And I-
as originally planned, that this could potentially just be a cul-de-sac or a dead end or a parking space to get to the lake area here, and then this would also be considered green space potentially.
So I'm wondering if that trail relates to that, the fact that those plans are still up in the air, the faux, non-blue trail. I don't know.
This here?
The one that,
The
yeah,
one with
right
the
there.
up with your mouse.
This kind of looks like a trail as well.
Yes, so that was, I think that's the trail that's supposedly supposed to go along 36 all the way down through Lanterns out to that.
Yeah.
To town
South-
center,
south
that's the
88.
one to town, yeah.
Right.
But they were talking about Coal Creek maybe being just a foot and bike path at one point.
Right, so I think that's what this is
But there's
reflecting. This is
no
the foot and bike
decision
path that
made.
continues down through that Lanterns area. Not as a road, but again, I don't know what, if this is.
It could be they don't know.
There is on that site that Allison gave us a link to as well, though, there is a alternative, exhibit Promenade Alternative Connection. If you would, sorry.
And I was like.
And that's the last link in that list down right there. So, yeah, that's how they would redirect it, but that's assuming that would, that would turn the bike path then into a road. So what happens if, I don't know, so I guess that is a board discussion point right there. But if that doesn't exist at all, that could also be considered potentially green space, it just dead ends for some reason. I can't imagine that happening because people, I don't know, it may have. I'm just saying it could happen. You just never know what's gonna happen in the end with that future.
Yeah.
'Cause
I think
it's
it
set
makes
up-
sense
it's set
to
up
me,
to go
though.
through, huh?
It is, that last one didn't make sense. Wouldn't they have to do like a roundabout so people can get out?
Maybe
If it
the
dead ends
alternative
there?
view?
Yeah.
Well, the alternative goes through Lanterns
It
along
goes
Highway
this way.
36 and out to 88.
So you're saying this would be gone?
Yeah, the bike path
Yeah.
dead ends right there where it's shown.
Okay.
That would go over to parallel 88th Street and out where the light is on 88th.
There's been a lot of
Okay, thank you.
discussion whether to make that Coal Creek go through or just make it like a footpath. And there's been disagreement between board members, old and new.
It sounds like they want to put a road one way or the other through there, either down to Coal Creek or along Highway 36 out to 88th.
Well, you'd have to, otherwise you only have one way out of that neighborhood.
Yep.
Right.
And that can't be legal.
So.
It can't
Yeah, that's.
be good for any traffic.
So do we see where parks and green space are in this development? I don't see it. Does anyone have a
Well, I think
sharp eye?
this was park,
Okay, thank you.
this was park.
It's a little it looks like,
This is
like,
Park.
yeah, like Allison said.
And then there's another one kind of,
So it looks like here,
you know, here.
Okay.
And then there,
here. It looks like all along here.
Yeah, all the way through is to
Alright.
connect to tract H, that whole
Alright.
swath.
I think those are the three.
Just look
Three
at
But that's,
spaces.
but that doesn't look like 30% to
And
me.
then also along Highway 36 here.
But if the retention
And
pond
the
is
pond.
included in
And
that, then I
the
think they're getting
buffer.
close.
And the tract H buffer.
Well, between,
Oh, this little
yeah,
thing right
that,
here.
yes.
Yeah. But you can't count the buffer zone.
No,
in the
that's,
green
that,
space.
yeah, right, you
Yeah,
can't.
you can't.
So I guess the only thing I would comment on is making sure that it meets at least, well, as we've always recommended, I'm sure town staff would say, and there's always compromises in the end that reduces it down below that, but we should always toe to the upper end of the open space requirement that the town has put forth, 35%. Now, connectivity, on the other hand, do we have enough connectivity for trails is really the question. I think the main one for the people in, you know, on our side is this one here. That's the main one, and probably over on this side, right? In terms of what they're suggesting.
And there's 2 points to the 36 bikeway.
Well, it looked like it on the other one. On this one, it's hard to say.
In the text, it does say 2,
Okay.
that it occurs in 2
I think,
locations.
I like the fact that they've kind of run a trail right through the middle,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which makes sense, especially that it lines up with that bridge there in
Mhm.
36.
Yep,
I know just from riding that a lot that that's kind of the uphill point.
yep.
So I don't know how they're gonna get away with those grades, like, but that's their problem, not ours.
Yeah, that's a ridge, that runs kind of along a ridge there.
Yeah.
One connection joins the US 36 bikeway at the overpass and bisects the site through a series of open spaces. The second connection occurs in the southeast corner of the site near the detention pond. That's there.
So that's what that
Over there.
blue,
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the blue with the black slashes? Is that sidewalk? It's gotta be.
Blue with what?
The blue
Black
go up to
slashes
the,
throughout.
oh, this thing like here?
All over.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's
Like
just
here?
got to be sidewalks.
Oh.
Because they're in front of all the houses and stuff.
You
This thing
see
here?
the,
No, like,
legend
They're
in the
over
corner?
here.
all of
I
this,
do, but I don't see one that
everything
does
that's,
that my eyeballs can tell.
Here, I can zoom in.
I mean, the blue lines are everywhere.
Whoa, stop that. Gosh, this thing is touchy. I'm
You know.
looking for it to increase the size. How do I do that?
This thing looks so damn dense.
so it sounds like that's definitely a question, it's really, what is the percent of open space?
Yeah, it just
That
looks
is a very
really
clear
dense.
question.
Really looks dense.
So,
I don't think it's 35%, or 30,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Another thing regarding connectivity is in the text we have, it says trail connectivity between the Tract H trail and the US 36 trail is not currently incorporated in the PD amendment. Although it is in the concept plan, and I don't know what that means, but I guess one thing we could say is that they should build that sidewalk really early on. You know, it shouldn't be the last thing that they do as they're building this thing out.
The one,
That
The
vertical one
throughway.
right through the middle, to get that connectivity between the bikeway and the rest of town that we don't really have in that area.
they may say no due to safety issues.
I'm sure they will, but we could at least ask for it, sure.
Well, if everything else is a sidewalk though, and that's the only main path, connectivity path, not only us, but I'm sure ProStack will have concerns about that.
Yeah.
I just
Oh,
recommend
that just, okay, so you're talking about these things, Tracy, the arrows?
no, the blue and black,
I'm certain they're all just sidewalks.
they're everywhere, like these things.
Oh,
Yeah.
that.
So then really the only path is,
Here, let me go up to the, sorry.
There's a little bit of a path over to the other parks on the other side, but it doesn't look like,
it doesn't shoot through, right?
right, it doesn't shoot through and it doesn't appear to have the same width, which
Oh, I
you would want for
Yeah, I see
something that
that.
people are using to commute through.
That little section right there, it looks like it just connects sidewalks. right? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, what I'm talking about is there's, like, this
Oh,
path
yep.
looks much smaller than this path.
It is, these are 10-foot paths, that's what this is saying, 10-foot
Okay,
path.
10 foot.
Okay.
And so, I mean, there is some path, but this side to me feels like it got underserved
Exactly.
to this side on like trail connectivity. I mean, when you look over
It's
here,
also the size of the lots are smaller.
it is, yeah, it's
I mean,
very
really
dense on the other
dense over
side.
there.
Mhm.
And there's no,
It's a little disjointed with their trails.
maybe those are the cheaper houses.
I don't see a whole lot of east-west in here, which
Except
mean,
sidewalks. and
going to
roads.
like where the retail and the sports stable is, I think that's one thing that kind of jumps out. I like the north-south. I mean,
Well, I think they're expecting maybe people to use
Just
the
the sidewalks.
sidewalks.
Mhm.
it's not actually legal to ride bikes on sidewalks.
Well, it's 45 minutes. Should we recommend that it be 35% open space and that it be 250 feet, or what do you all think?
I don't feel comfortable with the 250 feet recommendation based on our data for Hodgkin Harris.
Okay.
It'd be great to gather additional data. I don't know that we'll.
We are the
Yeah.
open space committee where we do try to
Of
get
course,
more
I want as
space.
much open space as there is
Yeah.
everywhere in this
Right,
town,
right,
absolutely.
right.
But based on that data, I don't think it is a sound reasoning.
Yeah, I'm not sure that this would be considered critically sensitive, whereas the Hodgkin Harris Reservoir has water. This does not, this is a corridor.
Right.
That's what it is.
So is there any other rephrasing that we want to do regarding that wildlife corridor recommendation? Not based off our EPA, off of our studies that we have related to Hodgkin Harris? Would be the better question?
Yeah, so I mean, maybe you could say you want to maximize the width of that corridor and not, and say it should be it should still be 225 feet or whatever it is, but that shouldn't include people's backyards, because that's not really wildlife corridor, because wildlife's not going to walk through people's backyards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nothing else from a fence line, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that to me seems more reasonable than the back of the structure.
And we've been through this before with all other developments. We have some verbiage around focusing on the wildlife that go through there and that they are traveling, from open space over to the reservoir, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Actually, that's a good point. There's going to be a reservoir in the right-hand corner, so that is going to be critical wildlife.
We don't know if it'd be designated as critical wildlife habitat, though.
Well, who designates?
Boulder County.
Oh, okay.
My reservoir meaning like Hodgkin Harris,
Right,
that, of course, and
right,
our Boulder
right,
County open
right,
space are our two
right.
biggest.
No, but I mean, number one, we do have wildlife in that corner, and we're gonna have more wildlife in that corner, so I just think that we can recommend always more.
Yeah, well, I think that you would de facto get 250 feet if you say that people's backyards and that vegetation zone, or whatever they call it, landscaping zone, doesn't count as part of the buffer, right? That's part of the development, and that you have to start the 225 feet behind that, and so then that adds on 25 feet to effectively what track beach is.
You
Does
might
that make
actually,
sense?
you might actually have that.
Where did the
I don't know.
225 come from, though? Is that what they proposed? Is that?
225 is the distance from one end, the track age width. That's
It's
that's
the
how
width
wide
of
it is,
track
225
age.
feet
So
right now.
they're not giving anything extra
Yeah.
No.
at all?
No.
So why don't we rephrase it something like adding open space,
Public open space.
public open space, I don't know, near the perimeter of the development in order to further maximize the
Wildlife corridor.
preservation
Wildlife in
and
the corridor.
access of the wildlife corridor in the past we've said like migrating, the words are not coming to me, but
Yeah, I can't.
I have a weird
to encourage migration.
If
There,
you look
perfect. I
at
like that.
the one that I had pulled up before, and it has a grid with all of the things. No, the one, look at, A down at, no,
Oh,
I think
sorry.
Sandy
Like
wants
our-
to come back.
Thank you.
pull that down. Yeah, wait here.
Oh, I see.
If we go back to this, and then if you look at these grids down here, can we add all of these? Open space, open space, open space, open space, and then the area. And then I guess that could be a way to maybe take a peek at the
That's brilliant, yeah.
acreage. I'm not sure, but that makes sense to me.
Okay.
And then you could see
Just do
the,
that in your head.
There's a lot that's with Metro.
Well, I mean, I can do it on my computer if I, which diagram, which link was this that I can?
this was one that I downloaded, but I think it's, is it part
Was it
one?
the plat, the plat link or?
Look, it's on this one too. Part one, the second page.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we move on to open space, minimum?
That might,
Ensure.
you know, it shows the outlot area and then the amount of space and then the use that it's designated.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do
But
while everything continues on.
Do we also want to mention the fact that the open
It's a good
space
idea.
is
Glad you
unbalanced?
caught that. That's good.
What do you mean unbalanced?
Well, the left-hand corridor has nothing.
Yeah.
But rather
I
than
mean,
maximum.
That's a couple of my thoughts when I looked at the map is, I'd like to see like
Percentage
a
sought.
10-foot wide path east to
Office.
west. Like maybe even along Promenade, just making where those 5 feet
36.8.
sidewalks at 10 foot, so people going east to west can get through there easily. 5
Like
feet
for the
is
whole
not a very wide
shebang.
sidewalk. I mean, that's, I think that's a
5
standard issue in front of your house,
That's
but.
my height.
That's pretty, 5 feet is
Not
pretty
bad.
narrow. 5 feet is
But I mean, no
narrow.
matter what, even if you just have that recommendation with your backbone of your, you know, what everybody's discussed all these years. I mean, it really,
But the total frontage.
Well, what you're saying is a recommendation doesn't need to be, isn't necessarily going to be adopted.
Oh, okay.
We can ask for
or
more.
that's, it's a
Sort of to listen.
recommendation.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think
we can always, we
like,
can
oh,
ask
gosh.
for more, but, yeah.
Yeah, all you can do is make a
Which is
recommendation
what my
and then
point
if
was,
it's either
let's
gonna
ask
be
for more.
accepted or not.
How did you wind up saying it?
She's tweaking it again.
Okay.
I don't know if that's appropriate. So OSEC recommends the development application not only meet the town of Superior's open space minimum requirements, but also seek the maximum percentage, particularly given the high density of this development. Can we put that last part in there?
Yes, definitely.
Sure.
And then
It
the
is.
other one is OSEC recommends adding public open space near the perimeter of the development to further maximize the preservation and access to the wildlife corridor in order to encourage migration.
Wildlife. Animal, wildlife.
Thank you.
Does that sound okay, anyone?
Yeah, that's fine.
And then, Joel, Joel had thoughts about,
Well,
Trail.
if you can scroll back up, oh, you're probably still
yeah, he's
crunching numbers.
mapping.
Anyway, on the
Oh,
map.
sorry, here you go.
As, I'm trying to do this left-handed. Let's see, where was so I would like to see like some sort of east-west that's more than a 5-foot sidewalk. Like this is 10 north-south, which I like because it kind of goes right in the middle of the property. Especially if this is coming from, you know, the other Rock Creek areas and the lanterns and things like that. I mean, even if one side of this was a 10-foot, where you could have some east-west traffic across this from, Rock Creek to the, southeast, up to kind of the center part of Superior Town Center. It just feels like the north-south is really the only way you would ever get through this, and other than that, you're on the street, and with that many houses, there's gonna be a lot of cars, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Those little guys down at the bottom, that's an interesting.
What do you want to put for residents? Something about cyclists.
Yeah, I think it's gotta be like,
Including cyclists?
this house faces this way, this is just a sidewalk.
Oh, so this is like an open space here, 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 all along
Yeah,
here.
so see how they don't have a lot number?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I think it's just between,
So those are gonna be pieces that are counted as our,
yeah,
interesting.
which is really just a buffer between houses, right?
Right.
So that this person doesn't have people on top of them on both sides. Because you notice they do it every third house.
Right.
But I mean, like I said, if one side or the other of this was 10 feet and it, went from one side to, and then whatever happens out here is kind of out of our scope and out of our control, but if this was 10 feet feeding in here, that would make a lot more sense than we have a 5-foot here and then a 10-foot coming in the future from the lanterns. It just feels a bit choked to me.
But technically, wouldn't that be the sidewalk still?
It could be, I mean,
And would that be legal for cyclists to be on there?
well, it depends. I mean, if you,
Okay.
if you have a multi-use path that's not like a sidewalk in front of somebody's house,
Okay.
then that is acceptable. And I don't know the specific rules, but I know that you can't have like cyclist traffic on anything that's less than like 6 feet wide.
Oh, that's perfect.
And so I think like, that's why you see like the 36 bike path is 12 feet wide, and a lot of the other ones will be 10 feet.
Okay.
Where you can have people going different directions without having to stop or get constricted.
Right. Okay.
So if my calculations are correct, it's only about 20% of this
Sorry.
So another thing that I noticed when we were on these numbers, which were somewhere, is I wanted to look at this because this says open space, drainage, and utilities. This is 2 3/4 acre outlot S. I wanted to kind of take a look at what outlot S is and where it was.
That's got to be the drainage pond.
Is that what it is over on the right?
That's the only thing that would be big enough to be 2 acres.
This
Oh,
is
geez, I don't know.
outlot S.
What is,
I go up
right
your
up
arrow,
at the top,
your arrow stop.
right there?
It's
Oh,
right next to
yeah.
where you're
It's
at.
that
Oh,
right in
right
the little
here.
corner.
Yeah, it's that whole strip along there.
So all of that is included then too.
Gotcha, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the biggest chunk of open space, it looks like, which,
Does it go all the way to the drainage?
Yeah, it does.
So
All the way
then,
down there.
yeah, so this must be the border of outlot S right here, and then it goes all the way up here.
Yeah, and it keeps going.
Yeah, up here, and then, yeah,
You
outlot
said,
S is
Allison,
this
you
too.
don't know
So,
the minimum,
this
open
is
space
all the way,
requirement.
which,
Well, that's always
I mean,
been up to.
it adds up to 2 3/4 acres, but how much of that is usable?
there's nothing.
I mean,
So
really,
there's
the
not
lot part
anything.
Up there,
I
and
mean,
all the way
it-
down here.
There is parts to the code that have open space requirements, but that's always at the discretion of the board to make the decision.
So if we're not happy with the 20%.
It's like
then
recommended
we can
requirements.
up that percent.
What do we figure, 20%
About
right now?
20.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's way too low.
Yeah, you gotta start high. You gotta start.
We gotta
That's
start
negotiations, right?
50%.
Did we do that one?
50, right, start.
I think 35 was always the high point, right?
That was
It's
like.
always the high
Yeah.
point, like if we could have it
So
all.
should we
it's-
note that in there?
Is it currently says.
Wherever it is.
OSAC recommends that the development application not only meet the town of Superior's open space minimum requirements, but also seek the maximum percentage, particularly given the high density of this development.
Could we add on
We can throw a number in there.
ideally,
At
not
least
even ideally, OSAC
Recommends-
desires,
recommends 35%.
Whereas currently it appears to only have 20%.
and estimated calculated 20%.
Yeah, whereas, yeah.
To be exact,
Yes, we
it's
currently-
20.5.
Should we mention the fact that one whole side has nothing?
Alley 17?
OSAC recommends that the open space be
Evenly distributed.
more evenly distributed, or that certain,
Well, it does look relatively, I mean, there's a big blob in the center, but then everything essentially is over on that retention pond anyway. It's not like there's much of anything throughout.
they're really using the retention pond as a.
So let's look at just big picture, right? If
Tool.
we're trying to get 35%, where do we want the bulk of it added? Where do we want 15% added? If we're trying to go for big stuff, because the developer's like, I'm gonna maximize as much as I can.
Sure.
I'm gonna take as much as the board is gonna give us. So if we're gonna go in and say, and we're focused on the wildlife corridor, adding another 25 feet all along there, do we wanna just say, we recommend, and I don't know how many acres that would be if we add another 25 feet. Here, I'll try and calculate it for us while we're sitting here, actually. Where's my- But that might be enough to get it up to over 35% if we were to go the whole 25 feet up further and then all the way across whatever that distance is.
Devil's advocate, then, if we make that recommendation and they say, no, there's no way we can do that, are they just gonna ignore our recommendation for an optimal 35%?
Well, other than that, other than taking out homes, I mean, you'd have to take out buildings to get to that, right?
Well, you would, anyway, if you squash that whole thing up,
Mhm.
you're gonna,
Well, these are-
where's it gonna come from?
The lower part, those are pretty big lots, right? So I don't know. There you got that dotted line there, which is a no-build zone. So that's the people's backyards, I'm assuming.
So you could just knock off those 40s, those lot numbers that are in the 40s, and just kind of be done with
And
it.
then condense.
Wouldn't that be nice? I agree with that position.
But, I
Not
mean,
going
I
along.
don't know that we necessarily want to be telling the developer how to lay this out.
No.
I mean, it seems like that would be a sure, easy way to do it, and maybe they would say, oh, well, we have to have 35%, let's just do that. But
Yeah.
I personally don't feel comfortable enough as a, neighborhood planner to know what the best way is. Although, the whole idea that it's poorly distributed, I think is pretty obvious.
But I don't think we should be in the business of, here's how you should do it. I think that's theirs. I think we say, these are the guidelines we want you to adhere to. We don't think you did. What's the next step?
We actually wouldn't want to do that, because then the backyards of the homes down here would be looking at an alley.
That's a good point.
That would not make the neighborhood happy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, our goal is the open space, though, not,
No, but I'm
Appeasing.
saying there's a reasonableness.
So currently, it looks like we have 3 recommendations on this property. Would we do it as 3 recommendations, or would we,
You could make one
one gargantuan,
large-
okay.
Yeah, one recommendation is 3 parts.
So one is OSAC recommends adding public open space near the perimeter of the development to further maximize the preservation and access to the wildlife corridor in order to encourage wildlife migration.
can I pause on that?
Yes, please.
Do we need to put the southern perimeter, because what if then they just try to add it to the retention center or next to 36?
Yes.
Okay, that makes
Yes,
sense.
put it in there.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. The second one, OSAC recommends that the development application include an east-west trail through the development in order to create safer opportunities for pedestrian and cycling residents to access Superior Town Center.
Can I make a comment on that too?
Yeah.
I liked Joel's foot delineation, so it's more specific.
Yeah, like a 10-foot multi-use path or something like that.
But I don't know the verbiage for that. That would be up to you
What
guys.
would you call it?
Well, I would say 10-foot multi-use path, exactly like you did. I mean, 10 foot is the example they have going north-south, and I think it would make sense to,
Oh, my lord.
You could say to mirror the width of the north-south path
yeah.
already planned.
I mean, I think about like on the far west edge of Rock Creek, there's a path that kind of goes behind the houses that McCaslin's up on the hill, and that's got to be a 10-foot path.
That's huge.
And I mean, and it's plenty wide for people walking a dog side by side, or cyclists passing,
Yep.
or kids on
Yep.
scooters or whatever. And that to me seems like a reasonable width. I think 5 feet is just too small. I mean, that's good for one party going one direction.
Yep. I'm going to reread that one again, just to make sure. OSAC recommends that the development application include an east-west 10-foot multi-use path to mirror the width of the north-south path, through the development in order to create safer opportunities for pedestrian and cycling residents to access Superior Town Center.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, and last one, OSAC recommends that the development application not only meet the town of Superior's open space minimum recommendations, but also seek the maximum percentage, particularly given the high density of this development. OSAC recommends 35%, where the current application has an estimated 20%.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can I suggest one more thing? And
Please.
let me know if you think this is crazy. Scattered throughout this thing, there are 3 big cottonwood trees, and raptors hang out in them regularly. As if when I ride by on the bike path, I see a raptor in one of those trees just about every time. Can we ask him to retain them? I mean, I don't know whether if it is like right going to be in the middle of somebody's house, but a couple of them are right on the edges
Yeah.
there.
I mean, at least make an effort to.
Heck, yeah.
I mean,
To try to. So just to retain the existing large trees that are on the lot, or that are on the parcel.
Are they, do you know, are they in that ridge, or, I mean, it kind of looks like they're on that aerial photo.
Let's see.
Right, you know, in a place I can kind of see where they might be, it looks like right in here.
Yeah, like there's one here, and then there's one.
It's to a point that I'm like, what else?
He said retain, I was thinking preserve, because maintain
Thank you.
to me
I'm like,
means
that's
like.
stupid. Like, as soon as I did that, I was like, that's not right.
Why not have shade
Recommend
in a park, right?
You could just put preserving slash,
That's not crazy.
oh, shoot, what was this word? It wasn't preserve, retain. Do you want retain or preserve the trees?
I'd say, no. Your recommendation, your verbiage. I like it though, I think it makes sense, and it's aligned with, I mean, you guys have put a ton of work in the
Totally.
Raptor program, and it's
Yeah.
with our visions, it's in our work plan, I think it makes sense.
Either of those words is fine.
Okay, so preserving existing large trees on the development parcel. In order to
Maintain current.
maintain current, yeah, raptor habitat.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
That's
so
very
what do I-
good.
All right, how do we feel? Should I read them all again?
Just the last one, I think, but anyone else need to hear them again?
Anybody else? Just the last one, okay.
Just the
OSAC
last one.
recommends preserving existing large trees on the development parcel in order to maintain current raptor habitat.
I think that gets the point across.
I do too.
I like the fact it says current, meaning it's not, we're hoping they'll come in there, it's, we
They're
know
there,
they're there.
yeah.
Let's try to keep them there.
Do we have to say large current trees? Current.
What if, are they all
They say-
cottonwood? For sure, for sure.
They say it's a
So why don't we just
middle-sized
know
tree.
cottonwood, so they can't leave some
Existing cotton.
aspen out there and pretend that's what it was?
Russian olive.
Yeah.
Okay,
So in order to get to 35%, they'd have to add over 5 acres of open space, which would mean they'd have to take out every third building they have in those tightly, high-density areas to make basically green space alleys. And that's 5 acres is a lot.
Well, they won't, they never do meet that.
Well,
Well,
no, but
You know, you were asking about the code that says shall have a minimum of 20% usable open space.
minimum, is it?
Usable is an interesting word there.
So they're at the minimum that they could get away with.
Yeah, so their consideration of what open space is in the.
Depending on what lot sizes are.
Yeah, let's see, where's that? So they consider open space to be drainage and utilities as well. Well, it says open space / drainage utilities. So usable could be interpreted as usable by drainage and utilities.
Right.
Not by actual people. It could be, yeah, it's all an interpretation.
Well, I mean, I like having the 35% in there because that is just nuts with, just houses packed in there.
Yeah, it does
I
not look like
totally
Boulder County.
agree, leave it as is.
Are you thinking we should tweak it?
Do we want to add something like recreational open space, something that,
I don't think so.
Yeah, just leave it as open space, we don't want to go
Oh,
down that road.
well, yeah, right. Open space. That's infers public, so it should infer public.
okay?
Okay.
Does
Glad we
anybody-
didn't leave that to the
want-
end.
So,
Yeah.
could you, I'm sorry,
That's
could you
okay.
read the whole thing one more time for my sake?
I sure can, absolutely. You ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. OSAC recommends adding public open space near the southern perimeter of the development to further maximize the preservation and access to the wildlife corridor in order to encourage wildlife migration. OSAC recommends that the development application include an east-west 10-foot multi-use path to mirror the width of the north-south path through the development in order to create safer opportunities for pedestrian and cycling residents to access Superior Town Center.
Do we want to say something about where the path will be located? Do we want to have it bisected right in the middle?
Well-
Because they're going to say, well, we got a road going right through the middle. So
Yeah.
I think we need to be specific as to where is that.
Like a centrally
east-west.
located?
Right, that's not road. Well, I don't know, Joel.
Well, if it's a multi-use path, it's not a road.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It could be adjacent to a road.
Is it connecting like two open spaces in your mind, or?
That would be ideal.
To me, it kind of connects
Or
like
to the right
what's
side.
happening over to the right with Lanterns and Cold Creek or whatever happens there. We want something built. Get a really bad echo.
Yeah.
Right now you are.
Not
It's
too
a little
far
weird.
over. Something over here to the right to where we can come back across to the east, like towards Sports Stable and things like that.
Okay, so use the word centrally located.
Or
So-
connecting east and west.
No.
So so what was, I think, what was being suggested was, wouldn't it be nice if we had more open space in the middle to connect?
Rain sound.
Yeah,
Big time.
what'd we do?
More open space in the middle to connect the open space paths like we have up and down. So maybe we should suggest not just along the southern border, but also open space through the middle parts of this massive development, and then have a multi-use path that connects those open space areas. So as I was saying, if you were to take out certain buildings on plots in the middle and then connect them with a multi-use trail to somehow to get to that magical 5 acres of space, both on the southern edge and maybe even in the middle, to make kind of a cross that is away from the very busy roads. So
Okay.
I think we might want to add possibly in there, because that actually does tie in with the multi-use path and east to west, and that was a great idea, whoever suggested it, indirectly. Up to you guys. But that would kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. How do you want to say it?
Well, so in that first, I don't know how you.
I don't think you should put it in with the wildlife corridor. I think you should put it with the trail, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I don't know. So I don't know if you have it bulletized or what, but the first part you have, that's the 35% thing, right? I forget.
The first one is the southern perimeter.
Southern.
Next one is development, is include an east-west multi-use path
Okay.
to mirror the width, blah, blah, blah. So,
So, yeah, I guess you would put it in the second bullet.
So currently,
To add
we could just do another sentence. In addition, this may provide an opportunity
To create
to
open space
create
areas.
open space connectivity within
Open
the,
space areas with connectivity via multi-use path
within the development.
within the development from
Yes,
east
sir.
to west.
Create open space areas
addition-
with connectivity.
Provide an opportunity to create open space areas with connectivity through the development. We should put further open space areas, because then they're gonna say, we already have one park right there in the middle. Okay.
Okay, so that one reads again. OSAC recommends that the development application include an east-west 10-foot multi-use path to mirror the width of the north-south path through the development in order to create safer opportunities for pedestrian and cycling residents to access Superior Town Center. In addition, this may provide to create what?
An opportunity to create, may provide an opportunity to create.
An opportunity to create further open space areas with connectivity through the development.
Is that too soft? Does that meet your intent? Might be a little soft. There's a may and.
Well, again, these are recommendations.
Yeah,
so-
true.
Okay.
And again, we're looking for centralized connectivity.
Conversely, we could say, in addition, open space sees this as an opportunity to create further open space areas. Instead of, did you see the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. In addition, instead of saying, in addition, this may provide an opportunity to create further open space areas, you could say, in addition, open space sees this as an opportunity to create further open space areas.
I'm glad we have good writers on our committee.
So writers, is that better?
Yeah. Again, that will get us closer to that 35% we're looking for too.
Opportunity to create.
And make a better looking block 16 through 22 with more green.
Do you want to hear that one again, or just move forward?
Let's hear.
Okay. OSAC recommends that the development application include an east-west 10-foot multi-use path to mirror the width of the north-south path through the development in order to create safer opportunities for pedestrian and cycling residents to access Superior Town Center. In addition, OSAC sees this as an opportunity to create further open space areas with connectivity through the development. Okay, two more. OSAC recommends that the development application not only meet the Town of Superior's open space minimum requirements, but also seek the maximum percentage, particularly given the high density of this development. OSAC recommends 35%, where the current application has an estimated 20%. OSAC recommends preserving existing cottonwood trees on the development parcel in order to maintain current raptor habitat.
I'm good with all three.
Estimated minimum 20%.
Can we put the percentage as the first thing? Again, that's kind of the overarching need is more open space.
He means move the whole
The
open
whole-
space thing
Oh,
up,
yeah.
sorry, to be top.
Yep, you sure can. All right.
Want me to go get
Yeah.
trustee?
She's like, what happened in there? What'd we
Yeah, I was
do?
gonna say, she's going to get coffee.
She probably left.
Just bring some.
So how does this end up going to the planning commission and the board? Do we make a resolution? I mean,
Well,
since the
I
planning
don't know the
commission
answer to
meeting is
that.
next Tuesday, right?
I think
We
one
need
of
to-
us, probably Ryan or I, will try and go to planning commission, make sure it gets in front of them, would
Does
be
this
my
have to-
guess.
Does this have to be made public before, I don't know how that, does it actually have to be sent to them ahead of time via staff to be reviewed as part of their packet?
Does have to
Before
go
we
in the
can
board
present
packet.
it?
Yeah.
It has to go to the board packet, I don't know about planning commission,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's an Alice.
But Allison will take care of it.
Sorry, guys.
Did you bring us treats?
No, we're sorry.
No, but hey.
I'm kidding.
What do you got?
You might need it.
There's some Reese's Pieces things in there, she knows.
Oh, man.
Okay, so am I reading them again, and then somebody's making a motion?
Well,
No,
I think
I don't think we need to read them again.
Okay.
the question we have is, we have.
No, don't leave.
Oh, okay.
The question we have is, we have a recommendation. The planning committee is going to look at this
Yes.
next week. what do we need to do to
In a
get
month,
that?
yeah. September.
Oh,
I
it's
think you
next
said
week.
August 20th.
No,
That planning
August
commission.
20th, and then potentially it will come up again for the board.
So does somebody
the board
need to
in
be
September.
present at planning commission meeting to make sure that this?
It's part of the.
How do we
Part of
get
it.
it to the right
Yeah.
people?
We put it in our notes, we submit it to the board, and I make sure staff knows about
That
it.
doesn't work though, because the planning commission meeting is the 20th.
Which is
Are we not
Tuesday.
allowed
It's not till
to
the
share this
26th.
with the planning commission when they're reviewing or no?
They have public comment at the planning commission.
Okay.
Okay,
So
Okay.
that's.
okay, great.
You know, which is what we do with other,
Yep,
Yep, Kate just needed to know what
Entities.
her
Yep,
and Ryan
I
need
just
to
We
needed
be.
didn't know if we had to like somehow get it to them via email ahead of time before we talk.
and
about it.
that's up to the
Okay.
group too. Do they have a mass email like we all have?
Oh, thank you.
I would assume.
Well, they must. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
all the
that's a good
groups
idea.
do.
You can email it to the planning commission, and then somebody can go and.
Hey, if no one else does it, I will.
Buddy, I did that.
It's on camera.
I know.
Chocolate pretzels.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
They're awesome.
I'm making a motion to send it to the planning commission.
No, I think on our 3 recommendations.
Four.
4. I motion we approve our 4 recommendations as previously read.
A second?
All those in favor? Okay, awesome. Moving right along.
And it's 8 o'clock.
Moving right now.
The rest of this will go fast.
The rest will go very fast.
Hey, you better take a break and have one of those before you go in further.
I'm good right now.
Okay, then pass it that way.
I'm trying to avoid like anything caffeinated in
What the
the
board's
afternoon
doing
because
when it gets to be like 11 o'clock at night when Ray.
you like snacks. Okay, so now we're looking at, discuss our recommendation for this, the Harriet's Development Plan, finalizing our recommendation to the board.
Do we need to pull anything else up here?
Does anybody feel like they need the,
You do? Oh, my God.
you have to leave again?
Yeah, I do, because you're
I'm sorry.
commenting on a development proposal.
Right.
In the future, maybe, the attorney has just recently warned us that we should probably leave the room when you guys are talking about. Maybe in the future,
When do we know we're
try
gonna
and
do
do it
this?
at the end, and then I can just,
That's a good idea.
you know, but.
I go home. Have a life.
Maybe,
Well,
That
can,
was
should we do
fun.
this?
shall we, why don't we just let her go home and do
Oh, no,
something else
If you're just
first?
gonna make a recommendation, I'm gonna see the recommendation anyway. Do you think you're gonna discuss still?
We might discuss that.
Yeah.
So I'll come get you when we're ready.
Okay.
And eat the rest of these pretzels.
So-
Those are pretty good.
The only thing that we have the potential of wanting up for it would be the, sorry, we're getting to my witching hour where I start to flake out and not remember what we're doing. It's Harry's plan.
Yeah,
You have, Peter, you're the current owner of this.
Yeah.
That's why I don't know where it is, because it's,
And we kind of put it together last time, but we didn't have a quorum to vote
Right.
on it. So
Right.
we're just need to vote on this.
there it is.
Yeah,
I knew it was somewhere
um,
weird.
So Ryan had emailed me a couple of recommendations to put into it, which I included. Tracy also had some, and I mean, these are things that are like rearrangements and changes, really.
Stuff.
So the thrust of it is really effectively identical to what we discussed publicly in our last meeting. So if you all are okay with that, we could just say that, otherwise I'm gonna have to either put this up or read it out or something.
If you can just put it up there, we can all read it at our leisure, if you're able to pull it up.
Do we have to email it to Allison?
It's a Google Doc.
Allison, I sent it to her, but that doesn't mean it.
Okay. What's the link? Is
Well,
it really bizarre?
it's 104 random characters.
Gosh.
Do you have your email there? Oh, well, wait,
I
you're not
can't.
projecting. Yeah, never mind.
I can do it. I've pulled up my email over there on the big machine.
Or, how about this, you've got it on your computer? You
I
guys
have it
can
on
look at
mine.
it. I know exactly what it looks like, Marcy can look at it here.
Or do we need it up on the screen for public?
But I can read it real fast.
If we're gonna have it in our notes, I think we're.
Okay.
Okay.
If nothing's changed, I was fine with it at the last meeting.
He tweaked it today, but Kate has it right here if you want to read it.
And it's, again, the tweaking is really mainly just kind of different words for emphasis. Would you agree with that?
It's grammatical
I
stuff,
think I
yeah.
pretty much.
I feel
things
comfortable
that you did.
with whatever.
If it's just small grammatical
Yep.
tweaks,
Yeah.
I'm
fine with it then
Okay.
too, if it's just grammatical.
Okay.
I was fine with it last time.
So the only thing I wanted to mention was Longmont had put together something recently. I threw it out to everybody. I got no one responding. I didn't know if anyone wanted to write it or not. But there are already precedences in place.
Yeah, so
I missed that one. I'm
I
sorry.
put it
There's what in
in.
place?
Sorry.
There's what in place?
Precedences in place
You were
by other
chewing.
cities. Sorry,
4.
Guidelines. similar to
guidelines
these.
for this type of thing.
Oh.
So I added that kind of at the end, so it says, please note that these recommendations are similar to guidelines from other cities in Boulder County. Does that cover enough of it? I mean, these are, a lot of this is pulled out of Boulder, City of Boulder OSMP guidelines. Longmont's open space guidelines are the ones that, they're to be revised ones are the ones that you sent.
Should I just, for those that did not read it, 6 things I pulled out, I think specifically for Peter, from this article in the Daily Camera. Number 1, required development or redevelopment be set back at least 150 feet from a stream's high water level or riparian areas, did I spell it, pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Areas, vegetated area. Number 2, landscaping or other vegetation within the 100-foot setback must consist of native plant species. Number 3, building heights within and adjacent to the setbacks be restricted to 20 feet tall. Window glazing would be required to minimize bird strikes. Number 5, utilities would have to be sited underground whenever or wherever possible. And finally, number 6, enhance aquatic habitat wherever feasible by incorporating shading.
So where did they get those recommendations from? Where did they
These
develop that?
were things they already had in place. I don't know where they got it from, but it's, you know, like Boulder, it's a city thing, so,
That's basically from Longmont's Open Space Advisory Board.
which they've had in place. They just tweaked some of the wording recently,
Yeah.
which is why I got in the camera.
Well, my thoughts on it, that's awesome, I love it. I feel like we need more meat and data because we're fighting so hard and on this parcel, and it's going to be a tough battle, that it's great to reference other cities, and I want to do that, but we also need to reference sound data that we've already collected.
No, that's fine, but the developer's gonna be looking at what other towns,
Yeah.
surrounding towns do.
So should we add like, see recent article in the Daily Camera referencing Longmont's?
I wouldn't say anything
blah, blah,
about
blah.
Daily Camera, I'd just say something about the city of Longmont.
Yeah, I mean, I think those
Okay.
6
We
bullet
needed-
points you pulled out are kind of the meat of what we want to reference, right?
Right.
I mean, to me, it's the most, critical things are what Longmont is saying is what they've established for the buffer zone.
Right.
And then the building height, I think, is relevant. And then underground power lines or underground utilities and
Burying everything.
I think those are all relevant to Zahari. Yes, and I actually did read it, Sean. I'm just really bad at email.
No, that's
these days.
okay.
So, but I think it's a valid piece of data that we would use to support our case for why we're asking for this, right? I mean, you can't go in and ask for things without some sort of reasoning and not get questioned and dismissed if you have no backing, right?
Mhm. Agreed.
So are you suggesting, Joel, to put those exact recommendations in the
No,
stuff?
so we could, but this, again, this is just for development in
Yeah.
general. This is not for critically
Critical, right.
sensitive
Right.
development. So at a minimum, where you should say we want this, but it really needs to be tailored toward the critical, critical area here of whatever we're saying in the bulk.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in my head, and I don't want us to get too far off track here, but I almost think of it as almost an appendix that we would add to, like,
Yeah.
Here's what Longmont did for typical development. Here's what Erie did for a riparian corridor. Here's what Louisville, I mean, if we can get all those data points, I think it helps us build our case for what we're trying to do and what we're trying to argue. Now, if we only have one data set, our appendix is a little short, but that's kind of in my head how I see it helping us build a case.
Yeah.
And I think the risk of this point is just the timing.
I mean, you could just put those 6 points at the bottom as a reference. The town of, or the city of Longmont has these criteria in place for non-critically, what are we calling it?
Critical wildlife.
Sensitive areas. So, you know, I don't know if that would weaken our case is the problem. I would worry about that.
Yeah.
Because it has 150 in there and we're asking for more.
That's a good point.
I mean, it would certainly be possible to just put some footnotes in. Our original, that position paper for Hodgson Harris includes Boulder City and Boulder County guidelines. We could include those links.
Just long
But
months?
links to those documents, and then also add long months in as well. I mean, that's an easy thing to do, is just to throw some URLs at the bottom.
Yeah,
So
would be
in the
very-
board notes, they won't, like, our notes will not link directly with like a blue link, but, because it's like a static, but we could put the link there, it's just people would have to go to that link.
And they wouldn't. It's more-
They'd have to copy it, paste it in their browser versus clicking the link is what you're saying. It's like a text file basically that goes to the board.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can't even include them, so.
So I guess then the decision is, would we want to put a summary of surrounding township, city, county?
Or make it in your recommendation for, there are these recommendations in these other places.
And one other thing, the other request that we had was to try and to keep this to about a page.
Yeah, it's
So-
the 3 right now, right?
Well, it's
It
pretty
has a
much
lot
just
of
one
them.
page. There's a
Yeah.
lot of additional notes at the bottom.
It's just kind of tracking how it started and other
I
things.
mean, if we're confined to a page, I don't think we have room for that. I mean, I think the best we could do is put a note in there about open space, or OSAC can provide, comparable guidelines from other Boulder County,
Yeah, I think that's what you were saying.
And this is something that I think we talked about when it also goes to planning commission and the board, that
Yeah,
Ryan or I going, that could be another opportunity
That
to
just came
say,
full circle.
Yeah.
other town areas, whether it's not just
Unless we
here.
had an executive summary
doing
type
this.
constraint.
Yeah.
Well, we don't specifically, but it was a general
Okay.
request, not to.
Okay, so are we back to where we started, which is?
I guess we are.
Yes.
Yes, do you want to specifically say Longmont, though? Longmont, City of Boulder,
He
Erie,
said,
blah, blah, blah?
he says.
Other cities in
Other
Boulder
cities
County.
in Boulder County.
So, I mean, to me, that,
That's pretty
that
much
includes
Boulder and Longmont.
Louisville,
Oh,
Lafayette.
A major city, yeah.
Well, yeah, Lafayette is actually going through the same process right now. I don't know that they have come up with it, but their
Yeah.
open space committee is doing the same exact exercise right now.
Well, I think it's something we should keep our eye on. I mean, just in general. I mean, even after we get this submitted, I think we should know what other towns and cities are doing.
I think there's also an opportunity that we are residents, and if we want to put this additional information forward to the board, we still have that opportunity. We just don't necessarily
It's valid.
have it as a committee, so.
Okay.
So do you want to have this as like a PDF or a Word doc that's appended to our minutes? That would then go to.
Sure.
one
Word
way?
doc.
Yeah,
And
it's
then,
easy.
do you have the formal recommendation that we did last time? Ryan told me you had the formal recommendation. That we'd written it, and then we were like,
Ryan wrote it. I don't have it.
let me see if I have it.
I have one for the Raptors.
Peter has the text. That's what it said.
Crap.
That doesn't mean anything, that doesn't mean anything.
Are you from,
I don't have it in the minutes.
what recommendation are you referring to? Because his doc is being called a recommendation, right?
We have to recommend, my understanding is that we have to recommend to the board that take this all into consideration. Right, that there's a recommendation, please read this and take it into consideration.
Got it. You guys formulated that.
So if we say
Sentence
something
last
like,
week.
OSAC recommends that the Board and Planning Commission consider the attached document.
Is there a
when-
name for the
When
document?
evaluating the proposal. Yes, it is. It's the OSAC response to the Zaharias development proposal. Or it could be even the OSAC response to Park at Rock Creek / Zaharias development proposal of May 7th, 2019.
Beast this week.
that's a great name.
That's as far as I can go, though.
You don't have a timestamp in there?
Yes, I do, and it's in a blockchain and.
Well protected.
Keep joking around, give me another minute.
Otherwise, it can just be short and sweet, right?
I think
You
so.
can use his name and recommend.
I mean, I guess that's what I understand. I mean, what's the need for a flowery recommendation here? Why don't we just recommend that?
Flowers. I mean, obviously.
Because we're open space.
Do we need a
Gotta
buffer
be
around our
wildflowers,
recommendation?
Natural, yeah.
I mean, can we not just say that we recommend the Board and Planning Commission review the OSAC response to the Harris development proposal?
I second that.
I wasn't writing it, hold on. Dear Lord, you gotta make sure I'm ready for you.
All in
What?
favor, aye.
What'd you say?
Okay, OSAC recommends, oh, you gotta put your name back out there, recommends the Planning Commission and the Town Board review the OSAC response to Zaharias Development Proposal Document. Am I talking too fast?
A little bit, Teresa, help me out.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was wordsmithing as he was saying it.
No, okay, sorry.
Review and consider
Yeah.
And consider.
and then he just needs to say the title.
OSAC response to Zaharias the development proposal.
And then we could just
Wait,
attach it.
Yep.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
attached.
As attached.
Oh, that's fine.
Gosh, I
I have
missed
too
you
many.
guys. I've been around you guys in summer.
Nice.
I think it's the first time in my life anybody's ever told me I talk too fast. It's always in a southern drawl.
No, it's Southern Drawl.
Yeah.
Drawl.
We were at this flag football tournament last weekend in LA, and none of us brought like a pop-up tent because we didn't know what the setup was going to be, this and that. And there was a team from North Carolina that wasn't playing that had 3 pop-up tents, and I went over and asked, hey, our players are dying, can
But you might
we
need to say it again.
you kind of hang out in your tent while it's going on? And the mom's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And I walked back and one of the dads said, you know what, the reason we sent you over is because you sound like them.
Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna read it one more time. OSAC and stop me.
Go slow.
Right. OSAC recommends the Planning Commission and Town Board review and consider this attached document, OSAC response to Park at Rock Creek, Zaharias Development Proposal of May 7th, 2019.
Is there a reason we have the dates in there?
I don't know.
I-
That's just,
well,
was that the?
I mean, I think
document?
because that development proposal's been kind
There could be
of
another.
iterations,
Okay,
right?
perfect. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
I'm just curious.
It'll be helpful to keep track of it for us.
Okay.
I mean, I know we've seen at least 2 or 3 iterations of
Would
that.
anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we do that as written.
Recommend.
I second that motion.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Ready for me to go get her?
Yes.
For the next 5 minutes. Well, now we're talking about
that's-
trail rankings. That should be, oh, no, Shan.
That's all pretty much done, right?
I don't know.
Okay, they want you to comment on one more land use proposal.
Oh, I
I'm
meant
just kidding.
Oh,
our document.
I was like, what? When did that happen?
And just go to the
Okay.
next project.
So what are our next steps, possible poster with amenities to help walk through the options? So
Can you do a quick refresh on last month? So it sounds like it needs to go before the board this month, is that correct? And thus the
Yes.
idea for the poster, and where were all those possible, small, medium, large, gonna get, they were just all gonna get thrown at the board? Is that how it was gonna
So,
fly?
as I vaguely recall from the snippet that I watched of the Shan discussion, Patrick came with numbers for the small, medium, and
Yes.
larges. I
Right.
don't remember what those numbers were.
They're in the notes.
But, okay. But I think, yeah, so I think the next thing was, well, I don't know, what is the next thing? We were talking about how to make this easier for the board to digest what we're proposing, is that?
So first we have to
Or-
actually send the proposal to the board as part of our, as part of our, similarly to what we just did with this other recommendation. And then Patrick, I think, said we had the option to present at the budget discussion. So there's a budget discussion where they talk about stuff for next year.
There is.
And we would have an opportunity to do a little show at that to sort of flesh out the details of what these different things mean, so that they would have something to hang those financial numbers onto. Am I remembering that?
Yeah, you certainly can. You
Yeah,
certainly
it
can.
all depends on the budget.
When is that?
We don't know yet. It's usually in September. Actually, usually I think we've already started to have some meetings in August, but it's usually September for sure. And what ends up happening is they send an email around to us and say, okay, go on and do this doodle poll. And then we try and figure out a date when we can all be there. It's usually during the day.
And we had talked about the interest of having a poster that really kind of spells out the vision of like, this is our small and this is why, this is our medium and why, and large and why, so.
And I have
And
a
that
Pinterest
really-
board that I'm doing to get images like that, which would be very easy to transfer over onto a poster. The more challenging thing is, are we collecting all of this and sending it to the board in some form? What was your understanding that Patrick directed from that?
My understanding was that he would be, at the time, he would be part of that discussion, talking about the details, but then if somebody wanted to attend, to kind of be able to punctuate, since he doesn't know the full vision of the committee, that would be a possibility.
So this was all going to happen at the budget discussion. It was not going to happen at a board meeting or some other manner.
I can't recall.
Okay. All right. So
You
I
could
guess-
certainly come and present your vision at a board meeting, if that is what you would like to do. The only dilemma comes, I'm not hitting my button here. The dilemma becomes how soon it can get on the agenda.
Right.
Obviously, you guys have just been commenting on Zaharias and Toll Brothers. I haven't seen either one of them show up yet, but they're gonna show up. So, but you could ask to come and present your vision at a board meeting. I mean, I don't think that's inappropriate. You can also just choose to present it at the budget meetings. Just say, hey, we'd really just like to come and do it at the board meetings. The only thing is, if you do it at the budget meetings, if you do it at the board meeting, the public will see it.
Yeah.
If you do it at the budget meeting, it's recorded, but come on, it's a budget meeting.
Yeah.
But that's where we're literally making the decisions, is at the board meetings or at the budget meeting.
Okay.
So, and with Patrick not being here, and if someone can be there to present, I would fight for you to be there to present it, because I think you guys can certainly communicate the vision far better than, I can try and represent for you.
Right.
But it really, I think, if you could be there, I think it would be good.
And that's really what we need at this point. We don't need public input. We don't need anything else. We only need a budget right now. Right?
Because the budget's going to decide which path we're taking, right? So.
Well, it will, and,
Yeah.
and it'll also determine when it happens.
Yeah.
I assume most of this is gonna come out of open space funds, so it's not like it's coming out of capital improvements where you're fighting against a whole bunch of other
Right.
people.
Right.
But, the board still has to take into account what's sitting out there in the financial situation. But, that's where it's gonna determine whether it stays in, and that's a great opportunity to be able to sway the board.
Okay.
So, I guess my opinion on it would be, I think the more times we can put this stuff in front of the public, the better. Whether we're talking about, we have these three visions and people can start kind of aligning with which of those visions, because ultimately it is town money, right? We've all put in this fund, and so I like that aspect of it, but it does feel like a budget related thing to me. Like, I mean, that feels like the right place to me to go is to the budget meeting. Now, I doubt there's any rule that says we can't do both. That just requires a lot of time from individuals. And, you know, one would be a board meeting at night, and the other would be probably during the day, you said, which
Yeah, they're usually,
might be constraining.
you know, sometimes they happen in the morning, but they tend to be in the afternoon. But based on how squirrely all of our schedule, you know, most of us don't have the flexibility that the prior board did.
Yep.
So sometimes they're in the evenings too. So it may be that they'll be, you know, on a Tuesday night.
So I guess.
We really don't know.
The question I have though is, let's say we make the decision we would go towards the budget, right? And then it comes out that it's 9 o'clock on a Tuesday and all 6 or 7 of us are gone. We would miss that opportunity. Then would our only other chance be just to go to the next board meeting as public comment, or is it too late at that point? Or are we a year removed from getting it back into the cycle?
I don't know. I mean, you know, obviously Matt controls the agenda, Matt and the mayor. I think the thing to do is to make a strong point that you want the opportunity to personally present this to the board. You know, with Patrick gone, either Allison or Brian or somebody will be presenting the budget, but they'll be doing it for the first time.
Right.
And a lot of them haven't set in on the discussions. So, you know, if I were you, I would say, hey, we really want the opportunity to present this to the board, whether it's at the board meeting or it's at the budget meeting, whichever, you know, the board or Matt determines is the most effective place to do it. You know, and Patrick might be able to, Allison might be able to talk to Patrick and see what Patrick thinks too. But, you know, I just think you guys have this vision now, and
I mean, the odds are 1 out of 9 is going to make the budget meeting.
We're 8.
Or, I'm sorry, 8. You're right, we're down.
And it hasn't been unheard of that even if a budget is finalized, that something hasn't come back mid-year or something like that that comes up. And so don't feel like it's your ultimate, that's the end of all.
because we aren't dealing with competition in capital improvements. This is a bit of a different, so it's sort of more, does the board agree with your vision of how much money we should spend out of this? And that's part of what you guys want to be able to talk to them about. Of, you know, this is what we think is really the right thing to do with the money.
So Allison, then would we just ask you to ask Matt which place would be the most appropriate for us to present it? And
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Or can we make that decision?
Well, yeah, I mean, whichever way you would like to do it. And also put it in our notes, you know, for this evening about, you know.
I don't want to
Your
skip
preference.
I don't want to skip past that, but I'm concerned about the numbers that Patrick had about those estimates and getting those from his brain before he departs us. I'm sure they're in several places,
Which
but
is like any day, right?
Friday.
Friday.
But, you know, I don't have them, and Sean doesn't have them,
I
and
don't either.
Vanessa doesn't have them, we're on the
I mean, he gave us
Change that
rough.
subcommittee. Yeah, I saw that, like 75 to
He gave us estimates, very-
150,000, and then,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, very broad estimates.
Mhm. Which is fine, I just would like those numbers. My preference is the budget. It sounds like that is what Sandy thinks would be the most ideal and
You know,
most effective. rather.
there's less competition for topics.
Yeah.
True.
We're only talking about the budget when we
Yeah.
have the budget meeting. So, you know, if there is an opportunity for you to come in and talk about it there, and I've never seen anybody do it, but I've never seen anybody not do it. You know, we've never told anybody. So, you know, my recommendation would be, that's where we're focused on money.
Yeah.
So if you can,
Yeah.
that would be my recommendation.
Sean is awfully quiet and scaring me over there.
No, I'm just listening.
You guys can obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of thought that the reason that we were talking about coming to this budget meeting is that
some or all of the funding would be capital funding rather than all from the open space budget. Am I
You are-
totally wrong about that?
You are correct, that we had talked, I don't know what you guys talked about last meeting, but Sean and Patrick and I had talked about portions, if not large portions, coming
And
from
I think
capital.
it came up at the board dinner, now that you say that.
I also was not at that, so, does anyone else remember
Do you
from the dinner?
recall that? I remember somebody asking about Shan and Matt was like, some of the
Yeah, I
funds
think.
will come out of the general fund.
Yeah, not all come.
Right.
Well, and if that is the case, you will be competing against Land Rover, you'll be competing against roads, you know, so if that's the case, you're gonna wanna come in and talk about it because, you know, we're closing on Land
Is that
Rover,
something you
so
could
that, and that's gonna be a big
confirm,
commitment
Matt,
of funds too.
where the funding for Shan is coming from? Is that something that can get confirmed?
Just thinking, where's our budget?
Okay. So I would say let's move towards.
For the
shooting for a
trailhead,
budget.
it is coming from open space. I'm almost 95%
Say that again,
positive.
I didn't hear.
For the trailhead
Oh,
itself.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
For sure.
But the
The
amenities.
amenities, I don't know if that's been, where that is earmarked for, if there's a placeholder in the 2019 or 2020 information.
Sandy, are you saying for the purchase of Land Rover is?
Well, I'm just saying, any
It's for
improvements
the-
to
yeah.
Land Rover will come out of capital improvements.
So not purchase the improvement?
Well, the purchase is being finagled through a whole bunch of different things.
Okay.
But any improvements to that facility would have to be taken out of capital improvements, or we gotta go out and get a loan for it. So I'm just saying, there's lots of things, lots of moving parts in town. We've got commitments with the Dr. Cog Trail that are gonna come up in the next year and a
Right,
half. So
right.
just, that's just where it get, when you start competing in the capital improvements budget, and 88th Street will be improved next year, or I will kill someone.
No kidding. That thing's terrible.
Is there a plan for Land Rover yet?
We need to move forward. It's already, we're not gonna make it
Yeah.
on time, so. So Allison, will you just ask if we can get on the budget meeting?
Mhm.
And then,
And if
Just
you
if you
can,
could
then
let
come
us
up with
know.
Plan B.
where the money's coming from.
Yeah, and all I see is open space for Shan Trailhead. I don't have amenities anywhere in that. But
And then the final thing is the figures from Patrick before he disappears.
So from a subcommittee standpoint, it sounds like we are back in motion again, putting together some more one-page summary, maybe putting together, or expanding our presentation that we had started with.
Yeah, I think use the base presentation and expand, but do we need to do a one-page summary? I don't know, what do you think?
I think, well, maybe not. I mean, maybe the slide deck would be enough.
Yeah.
Once we finish it.
Because we wouldn't be making a recommendation, we're providing the information. Am I correct on this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Wait, say that again?
We're not making a recommendation, we're providing the
budget meeting
information on
usually
what
held
the
here
amenities
in this
are
room,
and what they
so
would
we
look
have
like.
access to all of them.
That's my understanding.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
You feel okay about that one?
Yes.
Okay, moving to 5C, discuss and recommend trail ranking results. So I have a drafted recommendation based on our combined results that were put together. Does anybody have anything they want to discuss regarding the combined ranking?
I do.
Okay.
One thing, there is a trail regarding Zaharias, this one. New Zaharias trail system to include trails along the west side of HHR and connectivity to 88th. Does anyone know where that came from, when that got plugged in there, and history on that?
No, that's the first I can remember hearing it. So.
It
It's
had
in
appeared on the
red.
June rankings that Ryan sent out. I don't recall it being in there before that.
Okay.
So the ones that we voted on are the
Yeah.
ones that
So-
were included in the June document.
So the ones we voted on before. So we did all vote on it?
apparently, because it's got a number, it has a, it
Oh,
has an OSAC
and I
number.
don't remember it.
It's whatever votes.
Let's go back to the spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I have the combined one open, so. There's a
Um,
number.
Do you have the
of-
people? If you go to the,
I don't, this is it.
oh, I bet Sean's got it.
Oh.
Pretzel. He was eyeballing that last one.
It's always the
This
last
one is the one that I got from you recently.
Yeah, that's the.
That's the one.
Is that what
It's
you're
the
looking
number.
for? Here you go.
Number 5, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably voted on it. I don't recall.
Are you looking up the original?
I was looking up what we had actually ranked.
it's not the one we were talking about, like the little wildlife viewing area on the
No,
south
that's a
end.
different one. Isn't it?
Yes, that one's farther down.
Okay.
This one is pretty much the trails that were out of
I do
the,
not remember this at all.
out of the development proposal.
Hmm.
Right, the one that connects to 88th Street and the one that runs along the side of 36
Okay,
are pretty
yeah,
much
you're
ones
saying.
that were proposed by the developer.
So is left ProStack and right OSAC?
Left is, yes, left is OSAC, I think, and right is ProStack.
So we voted at 6?
Sorry, so, yeah, ProStack is column E and OSAC is column F.
Okay, so we have it 16th, which is, I don't remember voting on that one at all.
Either. It's weird. I mean, it's done. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't the only
Yeah.
one who was surprised to see it in this cumulative list.
The fact that it's 16th makes me not care too much about
True.
it. But
What number was it, number 16?
5.
No.
No, I mean, over on column A, what's number 5?
5.
Okay.
Come on, computer.
That was my
Any
only
other-
note. I didn't
any
want
other
to make
notes?
things slower. I was just curious about that one.
No,
I
it's
I thought there was quite a bit of harmony between ProStack and OSAC in the rankings. I thought that was a good sign.
Mhm. Do we feel ready to make our recommendation? Which I have to find. OSAC recommends the town board accept the OSAC ProStack approved 2019 trail priority list.
Final combined ranking.
Yes.
Makes sense. Or does it?
Makes sense.
OSAC recommends the town board accept the OSAC ProStack approved 2019 final combined trail priority list.
That's fine. Are there any that we want to recommend fast tracking? I guess is the question. Number 1 was Town Center Trail connection, so that's not going to happen. Davidson Mason Underpass, that's already done. Trailhead to Shanshan property, that's going to be done. So what's next? Continue soft trail along McCaslin Fire Station Park to Calamont. So that's really the only one, I guess, of the top 4. And then the next one is the McCaslin from South Indiana to Fire Station Park. So there, do we want to recommend that maybe we consider number 4 and 5 being fast-tracked? I mean, because
So this is a joint recommendation. I don't think we can change it at this point, can we?
oh,
This is our combined.
oh.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And did we not fast track because of funding this year?
Yeah,
Or
there's-
just waiting for our
There's
money
no
back
money.
from Wildfire?
There's no money, it doesn't matter what we say.
All right, there you go.
Does anybody want to make a
Patrick
motion?
said.
I make a motion that OSAC recommends the town board accept the OSAC ProStack approved 2019 final combined trail priority list.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Woo!
We're super agreeable.
All right, 5D, recommend for open space summary report and recommendations, recommendation for the board to accept the updated report. Does anyone have any comments on the OSSR?
I had a couple tweaks that I sent to Ryan, but they were very minor. And one was just a typo, and the other was just adding the year that we purchased Shan Shan and the intent for Shan Shan that it be a potential trailhead. I assume I didn't look, did he make those changes?
So I read the one that Kate attached as the homework, and I'm completely fine with that one. I
Yeah, it
didn't
was,
see it.
those are the only two tweaks to it.
So I'm completely fine approving the version that Kate sent. I don't know if that has yours changes in it or not.
I don't
If they're
think so,
not, I didn't
yeah.
catch the typo, so.
They were minor, super minor.
I don't think he's looked at it. I don't think he's seen your email, I should say.
No, he did, he responded
did?
to me. I just don't know if he made the changes.
And it's not a live, I don't have access
Oh, it's not
to
a
it.
Google Doc?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So that's
Can we still make a motion to recommend it with those approved
Ryan's final
changes?
version, or the version pending the final changes through Ryan? I mean, is that,
I have no idea.
Is that
can we
legal?
do that? So Ryan can.
You can make amend, you can say to approve it with the following amend, with
Yeah.
whatever your amendments are. You can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So the one, I think we can just say one amendment of a typo adjustment and the addition of further information regarding the Shan Shan parcel acquisition, purchase date and further information regarding, further information.
She's struggling.
Getting late.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Information regarding the purchase date of Shan Shan and the intended use of that parcel. That is succinct enough.
I haven't had a chance to review this, to be honest. I've been so involved with baseball stuff. So just looking at the table of contents, we have Anderson in there, and yet I don't think we talk about Anderson in the paper itself because it's enveloped.
We do.
Huh?
We do talk about it. Everything's discussed in that doc.
I didn't see it in after the parcel map. I see 76th Street, 3rd Avenue, Bulljack, Century Link, Rogers Farm, Town 15, Zaharias. I don't see Anderson in there.
Keep going down.
I only see OSAC recommendations after that. I don't see Anderson as one of the.
Does it get put down in the appendix?
There's like a history in the appendix.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about.
The review of properties.
I'm
I
talking
see.
about, where are you? Right here. Anderson, 8.
Oh, right.
So I think the table of contents needs to be refreshed to indicate
maybe
it's
we-
actually 3rd Avenue, not Anderson. Because 3rd Avenue is not on there, but Anderson is. And actually, on the parcel map, there are 7 properties in this table of contents. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things. So
So
I just want to make sure the table of contents reflects what's in the
Yeah,
paper.
So maybe
That's all
we
I'm
ask
saying.
for one more review, one
Okay.
more,
Yeah.
because I don't think it's of dire need to get there
No.
immediately. So why don't we do one more review, send it to Ryan.
That's my only comment right now. I mean, that's just a rough, quick.
Do you
And
want
then
to
we can
review
make-
the doc though and send them other stuff just in case? Not now.
Not right this second, but then we'll do a recommendation in September.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And it won't
I
have to be
mean,
district
Ryan
like
controls the
this.
document. I think it's easier if we wait a month and if there's no
Okay.
pressing.
Great. Moving on.
Bird Box Initiative.
Bird Box.
Yay.
I have a recommendation written. It's a lot. I think it's copied from when you had added some details to it, I think. I don't know. It all feels like it was so long ago. Wait.
I think the
You didn't
latest one we
change
had
that.
was like 3 sentences, and it has had a couple of revisions.
Okay. You might want a new one. Peter.
I can email you this in a second. Shall I just read it real quick?
Yes, please. Yeah, you don't have to write it.
So it is still kind of long.
Okay.
OSAC recommends that the town board spend up to $10,000 from the Open Space Fund in 2019 and 2020 to work with the Colorado Avian Research and Rehabilitation Institute, CARI, to install raptor nest boxes, some with webcams, in Superior. With this funding, CARI will install 1 barn owl box and 1 American kestrel box, both with webcams, in the secured town property at the wastewater treatment plant.
Cary will also install additional Kestrel and Eastern Screech Owl boxes without webcams at up to 8 other town staff designated open space locations around town, being sensitive to aesthetic and view corridor impacts near residences. Cary and/or OSAC will provide educational programming relevant to raptor nesting for residents in 2020.
That's from the last meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds the same.
So there's additional info about the
Right.
aesthetics and view
Right.
corridors.
We
Um,
added that, yeah.
Yeah, I changed around the educational programming a little bit. Per your recommendation, there was one other suggestion I got that this says that Cary will do this, Cary will do that. Does that need to be made a little bit more soft?
Sure, because what happens if they don't do that? What happens if the Wi-Fi won't connect to that location, include 800 other possible things that could go wrong? I don't know.
I mean, do we change that to be, Cary will make best efforts to do this? I mean, I don't know, I mean,
Yeah, I
That's what-
don't know what the best way
It
to
might be a
do this
Sandy
is.
question.
Would you say the point again? I had no problem with the motion, so.
yeah. Basically, it's around, we're saying they'll do this, this, then this, and what if we hit a snag down the road? Should we say best effort to do these things? Or do we just leave it in there and saying, we're gonna do this and then address it if it changes?
I say you address it if it changes.
Okay.
Okay, easy enough.
And that's how I write things, is
Yeah,
we're gonna do this until otherwise
yeah,
figured out.
yeah, don't invite problems before they, so, I mean,
I
entertain it,
motion
it's gonna
to,
happen.
to send this recommendation to the board as read by Peter.
I second it.
All in favor?
Okay.
I'm trying, Kate.
I know, we're all
So we
trying.
get that one.
Excellent, okay, updates and look ahead. So, first thing is meeting with Louisville, OSAB. What is it? No, and it doesn't matter, September 11th. Do you have any further details? Patrick was working on setting that up. I didn't think you would because it's a new thing, so.
Are we meeting before our meeting? Is it at the same time as our meeting? Is it here?
I
Do
think
I have
we're
to
shooting to
get the building
meet
open?
before
or-
their meeting.
That's what I was thinking, is we're meeting before
And
theirs.
we might have to either meet like a half hour, start our meeting a half hour late because it's on the same night.
We were meeting there because they met here last time.
Correct.
So our meeting that month will not begin until 7.
I think that was the intention.
It's in the your notes from last month because it's actually detailed in that.
I was thinking, when I read that, it was like 6 o'clock
Mhm,
for the
right.
joint meeting and 7 o'clock for our meeting, which would fall in line with what you were thinking, 30 minutes afterwards. That's what I remember.
But we're going there.
Yeah, so I need a little more cushion.
So their meeting starts at 7, so our joint meeting would start at 6, which would push us to 7:30.
Okay.
And then it was, do we then just push our meeting to a different day or just have a late meeting?
Do you have any idea what our agenda density looks like for next month?
I mean, we're in the third quarter and we've done so much on our work plan. I don't off the top of my head.
So Chili Fest will be before our
Right
next
before
meeting,
it. Yep.
so we won't have that.
September 7th.
What about COSA? When is COSA?
Well, we discussed that
Right.
tonight.
Yep.
September?
Right around that same time.
I'm fine with the late meeting, but.
Ditto.
Yeah, me too.
And I can send an email about to confirm that. What people are interested in, what they would prefer. Is there anything else you need from us, Allison, regarding that meeting or anything?
just when I need to be here to open the building
Okay.
for everyone.
Okay.
And then I need to change our
Time.
notifications for video
Okay.
and all of that kind of stuff, yeah.
I guess that's the other question, is Allison, are you good with a late meeting?
Sure. If I'm with, I don't, at this point, I'm not
We
sure.
don't know if she's our official liaison.
What's.
You may not
how
even be
things will
here.
juggled.
Gotcha.
I think you guys discussed at last meeting all the topics we're gonna address in Louisville? No, maybe you didn't discuss it, it's not on there. What are we going to discuss with Louisville? We have a list, I know, we've talked about it at meetings before. I just wanna make sure that we have that buttoned up before we mosey over there.
Would it be okay if I send that once I find it?
Totally.
'Cause I'm positive it's in minutes, it's just a matter of which
I
form.
know
So
we've
obviously
talked
ones
about
that
it.
think
I know
along the
we
borders,
have
Yeah.
a list,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the most recent thing I know that popped in there was the ConocoPhillips
Mhm.
development
Yeah,
proposal.
that's a good point.
And obviously the Democrats.
Yeah.
All right, who wants this pretzel? Because it's killing me.
That's
Anybody? No?
It's got your name on
I
it.
may even eat
I
that
don't need
M&M.
the
I
last
don't know
of
what's going on
things.
there.
I won't do that.
Just play M&M out of it.
Town 15 concept planning, honestly, I'm sorry, is there anything else?
Peter has something.
Peter, sorry, I missed that. There was pretzel talk.
Yeah, sorry. There's just one other thing going back to the Raptor Nest Box
Mhm.
thing. I know we've already kind of closed that up, but I just remembered. How quickly do we think we can get this funding authorized? Because one of the proposed next nest boxes needs to go up by like second week in September.
Oh, hello.
Would that be the budget meeting?
And so Patrick had basically said if the board approves our minutes, they will have approved this motion, which meant that he could pull money out of the open space budget, open space fund to start this process going with our consultant to get that box built and installed. But is that going to be too late at this point to do that by September 15th?
When does the board approve the minutes?
If they're in the next agenda, I mean, we have a meeting on the, whatever it is, 26th. If they're in there, we'll approve them then.
Because we're not talking a lot of money here.
It is open space money.
And how?
No, but it wasn't a
If I
significant
give you
sum.
minutes
I remember.
tomorrow, will those minutes end up for the 26th?
No, we're talking hundreds, not thousands.
Well, packet for the 26th meeting will go out on Tuesday of next week, so.
Yep, I have time.
I mean, I don't know what her process is once you get them.
Right. I think so.
That's a really good point, Peter.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. The rest of the timing on it's not so tight, but that one is.
The birds are inconvenient, huh? They don't know our schedule.
Right. All right, so cool, as long as we get that in there and you all approve it then.
Okay.
Yeah, I said get it to Allison as quick as you can. If she
Okay.
can get it in the minutes, in the package, she will.
Sounds good.
Thanks for clarifying
No,
that, sorry about forgetting
That's
that.
okay. Town 15 concept planning, that's what Ryan and I've not really been working on with ProStack. We basically are trying to work with, we have our Town 15 concept or position paper that we wrote. We have sent it to them, whether or not they've looked at it. So then our next step is to really create kind of a joint force behind it. We just have not had very good luck getting responses from them. So if anybody has any magical ideas of how to get them to respond and create some time around it, but that's where we're at.
Are they, how proactive have we been with trying to engage them?
I mean, as active as, even with the trails, with the trail ranking, it's been
fairly active and it's been with the chair and the vice chair, and it's multiple times of, hey, can we move on with this? Can we get a response? So it's been like 2 or 3 communications back to them of like, hey, we're still waiting for you to look at this, or, so.
I thought, maybe I misunderstood, but I thought that it was, and I don't remember whether it was you guys or whether it was ProStack, or I dreamed it, which is quite possible, that you were really not going to try and solve that problem this year, and what you were going to do was try and push to get the update to the pros plan, because you felt like it was a little strange to go in and talk about the Town 15 concept, because you haven't really settled as a team on what the priority amenities are for the town. So if that's the case.
And I think that's what the Town 15 position paper holds, at least for us, is kind of the bigger picture view of what we would like to see for that parcel, but then adding in kind of what their overall view is, kind of felt like that was actually doing the basic of what we needed for the pros master plan.
I think it was their suggestion that we be more proactive and actually start working on it now, regardless of waiting for the pros to be updated or not. I think it was coming from ProStack, wasn't it? That they wanted to still move forward with things. So we said, fine, we will. And now it's apparently not a high priority. They have higher priorities, so.
I thought it came from the board, not from ProStack.
I think originally
It was a high priority from the board. It was me who asked for it.
Yeah, it came from you.
And then the last I heard from
We had said.
from both was that the priority was to update the pros master plan, and that you would join with them in pushing that to be in the 2020 budget
2020.
to do that, and that as part of that activity, you would go through the process of thinking about Town 15.
Yeah.
But
No, you were
maybe that was
spot on.
just wishful thinking on my part.
No, I think you're
That was
spot on. Yeah,
I think, and I think we haven't moved forward from that point.
Yes,
At this
and that's where I thought you were, but I haven't been, I don't think I went to the last ProStack meeting. I can't remember which one I went to.
So then,
So I don't think they're putting it off either. I think my sense was that you were both in agreement that it was premature to really try and do that. And of course, I'm still frustrated because I want to see us come up with a vision for that piece of land, a shared vision for it. But I think what was said makes total sense. So, but I don't know. I can ask Neil, see if I can get any clarity from him. If I hear anything different from me, because obviously I don't go to all the ProStack meetings, so.
weren't we going to have sort of the thing that you were working on now is going to be just like some sort of baseline proposal in case something else came up, right?
Yep.
So then you'd at least have something on the table to look at. It wouldn't have to be based on the pros master plan or anything
Right.
like that. You would just have at least a piece of paper.
These
that
are some ideas that we are
you can
entertaining,
look at.
but nothing concrete. Yep. Yep.
So given that you're not getting anywhere, I don't know, what are the next steps? Are the next steps to keep attempting to do that? Are they to wait for the pros?
Well, in
master
my
plan?
opinion, it's that we keep attempting because it was a board ask.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that's
And
been
we-
communicated, and it's
right,
been
and we
asked
don't
by
have-
us, for us and for them, and that's been communicated of we need to, needs to be.
And we don't have
worked on.
dates or anything on when the master plan will.
No, because that would be a budget item.
That's right.
Did I dream it, or did someone say, I probably dreamt it, did someone say that Corey had something going on in his personal life and that you should be contacting the vice chair?
We have been.
Okay.
All right. OSAC-related items in the 2020 budget. I don't know if,
So I think we had talked about
We talked about
the
that.
raptor boxes.
Mhm.
Shan Trailhead?
The idea is
Shan Shan.
that now comes out of open space funds and then the Shan Shan Trailhead.
Yeah. We got
And
that.
that's a TBD that we don't know, so. Anything else?
No?
Mm-mm.
COSA, decide on who is going to COSA. We had a couple people interested, and then those couple people.
I think Ryan emailed me that he's gonna go, so
He is
we've been
going.
working on
Great.
signing him up.
So, yeah, thank you. Coal Creek reconstruction. Anything we need?
I don't know where you were with the last iteration of what's going on, but basically the creek has been moved. Flow control, drop structures, the waterways stabilized, irrigation's in, the plantings are in.
That, I think that was the only thing that was, they hadn't quite completed planting everything.
And there may be still some planning that needs to be done, but a lot of it, I mean, the majority of it is complete, I think.
So where do you
go
think
ahead.
it is now? What percentage? Just the creek?
I'm not sure.
95?
I'm not sure.
Allison, do you know who's kind of running herd on that to make sure that the plants that are supposed to be planted are actually getting in there and the locations are correct and so forth?
Because they were like just in the creek, just sitting there waiting. We walked it and there was, that was a while ago, but still.
Because the FDP was like super specific about there will be 7 of this kind of tree and 12 of this kind of tree. Is somebody actually
Well,
checking on that?
there are people that do inspections. We call them counting daisies because you count every single plant and plant type in the location. I haven't been working on this project. I know that Patrick has, and, depending on when some more of that information comes forward, I'll have more. But typically the inspections for counting and everything don't start until the work has been complete. And then once they say, okay, we're done, then somebody comes in and starts counting.
Okay. Chili Fest, September 7th. We always have a booth, and I or Ryan will send out an email asking if people are able to attend. Is there anything, Allison, that you need from us for that? I have all the maps.
Yay!
And some other random things in my home. I am now housing that.
Truly vice chair.
I am housing that until somebody else wants to house them. Is there anything else that we need?
We need to know if anybody's going to be there, so
Okay.
then, we make sure to have space, or depending on if other committees are coming, share space. And typically, if there's some type of map or some information that you really want to have printed out, you would let me know, and then I can have it ready for somebody to come pick up.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll send out an email asking who can attend. Once I know that, I'll send just an email to those people saying, this is what we already have in our little packet in my house. And if there's any additional things, let me know, and then we can let Allison know.
Yeah, and if you could get it to me quickly, because
You're working on it.
we're all have our parts to play. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Are we confident at this point that OSAC will have a presence there, or do we have to wait and see if we have people to man the table?
I think we usually do. I mean, I think Ryan enjoys manning the table for a period of time. I'm not speaking for you, Ryan, but I'm just saying.
We traditionally always had
Yeah.
people there in
Yeah.
shifts, just like at the 4th of July.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess you could plan at this point that
Yeah.
have a table for OSAC.
I think that's a safe bet.
All right. Standing updates. Conservation Fund update.
The town and the Conservation Fund are still in communication about the CenturyLink parcel. Nothing yet to release. We'll see what happens over the next couple months.
Awesome. Rocky Mountain Greenway.
The only update I have, and I'll send it out as soon as I get home, it's kind of interesting. The Department of Energy released a series of 3 videos about Rocky Flats week or late last week, and they're kind of like testimonials about what's been going on for monitoring and everything.
That's interesting.
I'll leave my opinion out of it and let you form your own opinion, but I'll send them out so everybody can see them. They're interesting, if nothing else. I know that soil sampling has started, but I've not seen any updates on, what the test results are. And I don't know when we'll see that, but I keep an eye on the committee that, the joint committee of all the towns and stuff, and that's usually where we get our information from, so.
Oil and gas?
Nothing new, nothing to report right now.
The Broomfield City and County vote for funding Jefferson Parkway, which kind of fits in there, got postponed again, so next month.
Oh, okay.
In theory,
Yeah.
is when it will happen, but who knows, it's been like 6 months of postponement now.
It's been an issue for a while, yeah.
Do you know why it's getting postponed?
At first, they were waiting for additional data in July, and now it is a little unclear why it's getting postponed.
Okay. And our Raptor program?
So I guess just a very short update on behalf of Vanessa. All of the nests, all of the 10 nests that Vanessa's volunteers have been monitoring have now fledged successfully.
Oh my gosh.
It was an extremely successful year for raptors in Superior. The sort of the latest ones to go were some red-tailed hawk and some Cooper's hawk nests, and the fledglings that are out flying are learning to fly on their own. Volunteers have seen them learning how to hunt by themselves and become less and less dependent on their parents. But overall, the numbers of nests and numbers of fledglings were really high this year. So that was cool to see.
Do you know how many fledglings they got, a guesstimate? Like how many per nest usually happen?
So in total.
2, 3?
So the great horned owls usually fledge 1 or 2, and most of the nests fledged 3 or 4 this year.
Wow.
Red-tailed hawks usually fledge 2 to 4, and I think they were all 2 to 4 that fledged. Cooper's hawks, I'm not completely sure about. It's usually 2 to 4, and my understanding is that there were 2 to 4 from each of those nests. And American kestrel was low because the available nest sites aren't that good. However, that's one of the species that's being targeted for nest boxes upcoming, so that we would hope to see an improvement in that in future years.
I can't wait till we get the boxes up. That's gonna be so cool.
It'll be really cool next summer.
I mean,
to see
it
the
will
data
next, yeah,
difference, too.
yeah, it'll be good for the community that we're doing this.
Hope it works.
Yeah.
Well, all right, that is everything on our agenda.
Yeah, a
Start
couple
typing
things
in
I wanna
soft
add.
music, right?
Allison, what is going on with the Shan initial, just leveling it, putting a parking lot in? I thought that was starting with at the same time as at the end of July, beginning of August, at the same time as Colton Road.
That, the dominoes will fall with that contractor the way it makes the most sense for them to integrate it into that project. And I know we were waiting on some Raptor.
Yeah, that's over. That was July.
It was the end of July. And I know there has been some delays with some of the road project because we are also, I'm thinking that we may also have some more construction being done even up to during Chili Fest.
I have actually.
So-
I got an email about that. Patrick said the project will start after the Colton resurfacing project is complete. So early fall for a start date.
Yeah,
All right.
got a ways to go.
And then back to the Town 15 concept planning, ProStack in their July 17th note says, Town 15 Vision Review Committee stands on vision for potential recreational opportunities or amenities that would fit within this site if altered at some point in the future. Bullet point 1, Corey looking for discussion to help focus our task. Second bullet, action, Corbett to draft language on ProStack vision. Sub-bullet, all present members were in favor of reserving space as a cultural recreation and open space area. That's it.
Which doesn't really sound like collaboration
No.
with OSAC?
That was their July.
That was July.
Okay.
And they had also comment on it in June. I using the Engage Superior search engine to find all the instances of it in their minutes. So they have been discussing it, but not with us.
Okay.
Or mentioning it at least. So maybe they are trying to get their act together before they engage us. I don't know. But it has been discussed. Okay.
All right.
That's all I have.
Anybody else?
No.
All right, 9 o'clock, we're adjourned.